Welcome to RPGibberish, the podcast for RPG lovers by RPG lovers. And you haven't heard that in a while now. Yes, Fate was kind enough to cast Raise 3 on this podcast, or Raise Gar if you want to get technical with us. How you going, everyone? It's been a very long time. I am Greg, and with me, with this triumphant return, is none other than Mike Aerodynamisch. How you going?
Hey Greg, yeah, back in the RPGibberish. It's been a very long time. I'm really happy to get back into making podcasts. I've been appearing on some, but it's great to set this up again. And I think we have a wonderful episode planned, right?
Absolutely. I've been doing a lot of podcasts since the last RPGibberish episode, and whilst it's awesome to be a co-host of other podcasts, to be a co-creator and to have your own podcast be your own little baby is another thing entirely, especially when it's completely RPG centric. So I've always wanted to revive it in some shape or form, and I thought this year, with how things were going for the better, I thought the timing was right.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you approached me a couple of weeks ago with this idea to get it going again, I thought, yeah, this is now a good time. We, at least I, and I think you as well, we've met a lot of new great people in the YouTube gaming community who are very focused on JRPGs. That I think we both really want on as guests if they want to partake. And of course, a lot of new, normal viewers and subscribers to our channels that are just dying to find out all the great news about JRPGs or get really focused on one particular series, which is of course one of our things with the RPGibberish episodes, is where we just take one particular series or developer and then just go crazy about it for a couple of hours to just completely obliterate everything and make everybody, experts on these particular series. So I'm really happy to revive it with this new episode, and hopefully many great new episodes in the months to come.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. We've met some wonderful people in the community, and I definitely want to twist their arm and bring them on, and we can have some really great RPGibberish episodes. So, without further ado, how could we not come back strong with one of our more popular topics we used to do every year, and that is the TGS, none other than Tokyo Game Show.
Oh yeah, definitely. Tokyo Game Show. For me personally, E3 is great, but it's very Western focused. But Tokyo Game Show for me, it's where it's all at because you get excited for all these new Japanese games and especially Japanese RPGs that get announced over there. Usually it's around the same time when a lot of companies also do some localization announcements as well. And even though the TGS weekend itself this year was okay, but that's due to the fact that we had a lot of pre-TGS announcements and, Nintendo doing their own bit and Atlas have done their own bit in the past. So it's still going to be crazy. We're just going to be talking about pretty much all the major announcements for the last month. And yeah, I'm excited for a lot of games. 2015 and maybe also 16. It's going to be crazy. So yeah, it's crazy. 2014 now. It was supposed to be a great year for Japanese RPGs, and I think the last episode we recorded, I believe it was either early 2012 or late 2012. So it's been about 2 years, and pretty much every episode, both of us, we came back and we started talking about this one particular game, this one particular game, and it was hype announcements. And I don't know. It's Where is it? It was supposed to come out this year. It's still not coming. And I'm of course talking about Falcom's Trails in the Sky second chapter, the localization of it. It's Where is it, Greg? Where is it? Let me know. Where is it?
It will come, and it will be a ambush because man, the one thing that XE did this year that was really surprising is they said, oh, it's coming, and they didn't give a specific window. They did, and then they didn't, and then out of nowhere, oh, FC is on Steam. without warning.
Oh yeah. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, the first chapter is on Steam now, which I haven't picked up because I just prefer playing on handhelds. But it's great to see more JRPGs on Steam, and especially this great one, which I still find it's in my top 10 JRPGs. It just is. It's a fantastic game, and I can't wait for the sequel. It's heartbreaking. It's been more than 3 years since I played FC.
It's getting close to top 10. When I did my top 10 series, I had to count all the other games that I haven't played yet, and other series I've played more than just one game. But it's there at number 11. And in response, I did actually get it for Steam, and I just want to say one thing: I do love playing Falcom games handheld wise. It's convenient. It feels nice. But my God, playing all their games in 60 frames per second, even Trails in the Sky, looks beyond amazing. It is really surprising. Like, when I played the two East games, that kind of was a given because it's an action RPG. But to see a more traditional RPG like Trails in the Sky run in 60 frames per second, it was kind of interesting to behold. It is really nice. And if you don't have a PSP, I can recommend that. It is a great way to play the game. It's also actually the original way to play the game since it's the actual original version.
Yeah, no, that's true. I highly recommend whatever platform you can check it out. It's still a great game. But yeah, I think we've talked about that enough on RPGibberish. We are just fans of first chapter. In any case, two things that I wanted to mention since we actually did the last episode of RPGibberish is that I'm known as this Final Fantasy fanatic. I absolutely go crazy about Final Fantasy. At least I have so in the last couple of years. But since the recording of the last RPGibberish episode, I have to be honest and say that I have not played any Final Fantasy Japanese RPG. I have played a few spin-offs, like maybe some rhythm games. But just a centric Japanese RPG, it hasn't happened for me in the last time. I still haven't played Lightning Returns. I haven't played anything else ever since I beat Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy Dimensions. So it's crazy to see that the number one series that I loved for so many years, I haven't played for a long time. And I got to announce here, I've talked about this on my channel. I have a new love, and it's called Atlas. It's the number one now.
Nah, that's understandable. No, I wouldn't say I'm a massive Atlas fan, but there's a lot of games that they make that I absolutely love as well, so I can totally understand. And by the way, he ain't kidding. You should see some of his unboxing videos he's done this week alone.
Oh yeah, we went a little bit crazy with Persona Unboxing Week. It's on the collection side, it's going crazy with Atlas.
I only got 2 words for you folks. Incense burner. How awesome is that?
Yeah, that was one of the best items that I've ever seen in a limited edition box set. That's the Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne PlayStation 2 limited edition from Japan. It was a great surprise because I didn't know what it was coming with when I bought it. So awesome stuff. But Atlas. We got a lot of great news to talk about here. A lot of hype. Before we get into the TGS stuff, there's one thing I have to mention this, and I know it hurts Greg more than it hurts me. Since the recording of the last RPGibberish episode, there has not been any localized Dragon Quest game except for a few games on iOS that nobody cares for.
It is a weird situation for me right now because I do want to play the hardcore Dragon Quest fan on a soapbox, demanding a return to form of the series. And there's been a lot of positive and negative reactions to people wanting Dragon Quest VII, and one of them is we're gonna boycott everything else if you don't bring out the game. And I was kind of that mindset to begin with, but watching these videos on all these upcoming Square games coming out, I have to sit there and say, is it worth it? Like, obviously I'm really interested in playing these games. Is it worth, sticking to my guns and all that jazz? And we'll talk about it in just a bit. What how I feel about these games coming up. I yeah, that's all to it. I love Dragon Quest. I hope in the end of the day, 7 comes out eventually. Because out of all the games that everyone wants, 7's pretty much the only one that I would love. There's hints that 11 is going to get some special treatment, which is pretty awesome. And I actually have some interesting news relating to that when we talk about another Dragon Quest game that was talked about at TGS later on in the episode.
Yeah, definitely. Let's wait for the Square section to talk more about Dragon Quest. But yeah, sometimes it happens. It's sort of the momentum shift. I can very vividly remember there was this pretty popular JRPG series. It's called the Tales of series, which for like 2 years straight or maybe longer, it just went silent. No localizations, nothing. And it's kind of what Dragon Quest is going with. So. Hopefully we'll see a momentum shift in the upcoming years where it's no worry at all, and then there's another series that is struggling. But yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly how it goes. It just goes up and down, variations. One series rises, one series falls, and then that series rises again. Just the nature of the industry.
Yeah, definitely. It's always an interesting thing to watch and look forward to with games, especially the Japanese RPG side. I always look forward to news and see how the series are progressing, and how these companies basically sit down and think of their long-term strategy, both in Japan and in the West. So I always find that interesting to watch. So yeah, this is what has been going on for a long time with RPGibberish hosts. We've been playing quite a lot of JRPGs. And some other games, of course. But that's not what we're here about. I think it's time to crack down with some Tokyo Game Show 2014 news. So we have a lot of great categories planned, mostly tied down to the game developer or series. And this episode, we are going to be starting with Square Enix, which I would say was the strongest presence at Tokyo Game Show, the event this year, because there was a lot of great news, right, Greg?
Yes, and they got criticized big time at E3, and everyone was screaming everything was a no-show, even though there was a really nice Kingdom Hearts 3 teaser. And I think seeing how they planned it, they were really smart. They gave the teaser for Kingdom Hearts 3 at E3, and they gave the crux of the Final Fantasy news at TGS. So I think they went about it the right way.
Oh yeah, definitely. Square Enix, yeah, they have just grown into this massive company that does a lot more than just game development. But while personally I question some of their decisions sometimes, they still have quite a great lineup. And if you are a Final Fantasy fan, or some of the other series that they're well known for, like Dragon Quest, like Kingdom Hearts, or even some new IPs that they're spinning up, which are actually very entertaining, you will have a lot of content to play with. So it's great. It's been great. So let's crack down with what I would say is, it's still the biggest surprise. It was announced a couple of months ago, but they talked a little bit more about in-depth. It is Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. So what this is we of course all know that Final Fantasy Type 0 was released for the PSP back in 2011, only in Japan, very late at the end of the life cycle, and for some reason it was never localized. For years we have been waiting. There was a fan translation in the work which was released a couple of months ago. I believe back around the same time with E3, and basically Square said, we're going to be making an HD version of Type 0, and we are going to be releasing it for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, which personally that is to see a PSP game get an HD remake for these great, next or current generation consoles is great, but I'm not 100% sure if it will translate really well, because there's been a lot of talk about this is going to be just a graphical upgrade and the game will basically stay the same. And especially the game is coming out. They announced a release date for this worldwide, which is March 17th in North America, March 19th in Japan, and March 20th in Europe. So I am, of course, very excited. I have played the PSP fan translation for, I would say, 6 to 8 hours. I enjoyed it, but there were also some things about it that I didn't enjoy, and that was due to the PSP's limited hardware. So I really hope that the HD version fixes some of these things, like dual analog control, camera control, pretty archaic and timed quest system. So yeah, I am really interested to check out Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. It's definitely on my radar. And the great surprise, at least for me, is that when you buy Final Fantasy Type 0 HD, you will actually get a full playable demo for the upcoming Final Fantasy 15. And it's I'm not 100% sure if they announced this, but I believe it's a dedicated demo called Episode Disgaea, which is basically content that is not going to be taking place in the actual Final Fantasy 15. So I'm interested. This is looking like an interesting Type 0 HD with some teaser for Final Fantasy 15. I am very excited for it. It's about time that we were finally able to crack down and play this game in English, if you don't count the fan translation. So I'm excited. We both played the demo years ago, and we actually talked about it on RPGibberish, Greg. So how excited are you for Type 0 HD?
I was actually really interested when it was announced, but the whole translation thing kind of blew up, and I didn't know who to support, the fan translator or Square Enix themselves, and that kind of put my mind in a lot of tears. And looking at the trailer this weekend, I have to say this, they were definitely working on this game well and truly before they said they were going to, put it on the PS4. I mean, when you look at the trailer, the textures and how everything works and the lighting and the shadows, they've been working on this for a while now. There's no denying that. And it looks amazing. It looks really surprising. And I said to myself, well, this probably won't come out for a while. And when they announced it's coming out March, I was like, really? And they actually admitted in a later article that they do have to work out the kinks. There is a lot of bugs that have arisen, and that's pretty much what they're mainly doing now. They're pretty much doing debugging and just all the tweaking to get it ready for the March release. And the thing is many people know that I'm not really fond of Square in the last generation, but that doesn't mean I'm just a Square hater for the sake of being a Square hater. I used to love Squaresoft. I grew up with them in the 90s. I loved them during the PS1 era and the PS2 era. They just had some amazing games. I love Square. And this new generation basically can be a big reset for the company, because the PS3 generation for them was, in my opinion, the worst. And I think to an extent they knew that. So instead of investing more to make that generation better, they invested all their time to make this next generation that's upon us now better than before. And with a game like Final Fantasy Type 0 in its shape or form, it's a good start. It really is. And to even sweeten the deal, they released the demo Episode Disgaea, and I thought, well, that's cool. But then I found out the demo could be up to 4 hours, and I was like, that's amazing. That's absolutely crazy. And that's worth a good chunk of paying for the Type Zero HD collection, HD version by itself. So yeah, well done to whoever is there at Square right now. They're finally thinking straight, and it's a really good idea. As for what Arrow said before, the combat hasn't changed. I actually really liked the combat system in Type Zero. It took a lot of getting used to. It is based a lot around strategy and pre-planning. The difficulty is set to a degree where they want most of your characters to die in the mission. It's all about surviving and salvaging what members you have left. The thing that really got a kick out of me was the summoning system, that when you summon a Guardian Force, or what do they call it in Type Zero? Is it Aeons, Guardian Forces?
I have no idea. Eidolons, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure.
But the thing that really shocked me is I summoned one with the last surviving character and got a game over when I realized that when you summon one of them, the character dies. So, and I've told a lot of people think this and they think it's ridiculous, but it's what I like to call a trump card. If all else fails, if the character's about to die, why not summon one of the Final Fantasy's best and deal out as much damage as you can? I really like Type Zero for some odd reason. Well, I like to... Okay, I have a new rule in RPGibberish, and I think Arrow is going to agree with me. I will not bash 13 as much as I once did. It's a bad habit. I won't do it anymore.
Oh well, we'll see how that goes in the course of this episode.
Yeah, but in comparison, I enjoyed it a lot, the battle system a lot more to the other Final Fantasy games that were released at the time. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to Type Zero, to the point that I'm actually considering making that my date to get my PS4. So, I mean, there's a few games that came out, but they were all on PS3 as well. So I kind of this year just got the PS3 versions. But for a game like Type Zero, I think that might be my entry point, if not my earliest time that I'm going to get a PS4 next year.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I already have a PS4 set up here. Not a lot of JRPGs for it though, but yeah, I'm definitely down for this March release, and yeah, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. It's where it's all at. Final Fantasy Type Zero HD. So yeah, let's see what else did Square announce. So besides the actual Final Fantasy demo that you get with Type Zero HD, they also finally showed and talked about the game development for Final Fantasy 15. One of the big surprises, I would say, is happening behind the scenes with Final Fantasy 15, and that is that the main director, Tetsuya Nomura, is stepping back as the main game director, and Hajime Tabata is taking over, who did Type Zero, and a couple other great games. I believe he also did Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection. But yeah, Tetsuya Nomura freed up from Final Fantasy 15. That can only mean one thing, right?
Oh yeah. We all know where Nomura's heart really lies. Pardon the pun.
We're talking about The World Ends With You Too, right?
Ah, never.
Right? It's time now. He can work on it. It's time for a sequel. No, it's yeah, The World Ends With You Too. Yeah, the world will really end before we get the sequel. It's one of my favorite games on the DS and JRPGs in general. It's really regrettable that we haven't seen a sequel for it. I think it would have done very well, but I think it's safe to say, unless Square is really gearing up this generation to make amends for what they've done over the last couple of years, I don't think we should be expecting that game. But of course, this will free Tetsuya Nomura up to really focus on Kingdom Hearts 3, because even though it's been announced for PS4, I still think we're talking about a game that at the earliest will probably be released in 2017. Because, Final Fantasy 15, I don't see it happening next year. We only have the demo, and then early 2016 might be a release for that, and then 2017 for Kingdom Hearts. I think we are looking at a realistic time slot here, especially when you're talking about this massive PlayStation 4 and also Xbox One game with a lot of great visuals. Um, yeah, at least it's great to see that he can now focus on that. And then basically give Hajime, Tabata, who's doing a great job because he did Type Zero and a lot of other great stuff. He's a great guy so far working at Square Enix to basically make sure that that Final Fantasy 15 gets resolved to the best of their abilities. And I have full faith in it that this is for the best.
Hajime Tabata, one of the biggest things he was a part of that made me very happy is I would consider it to be one of the greatest games on the PSP, and that is Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII. Absolutely wonderful game. I was addicted to it. I actually imported my copy and got it before it was reached Europe, and I played the crap out of it. Absolutely loved that game.
Oh yeah. Crisis Core was great. Thanks for reminding me that he worked on that as well. Yeah, it's just it's good to hear. From somebody who grew up with Square in the '90s, we all know the Holy Trilogy. They're gone. We're talking about Sakaguchi, Uematsu, Amano. They, especially Uematsu and Amano, they sometimes still do work on a freelance basis, but the main guy Sakaguchi being gone, it's very regrettable, especially now that Mr. Sakaguchi is not working on any other Japanese RPGs with Mistwalker at the moment. Maybe some iOS stuff, but yeah, it's good to see that there's a new generation at this company, Square Enix. I do have to bring up this point. Is something that I believe, especially Tetsuya Nomura, he has this vision of what is stylized action. And I used to enjoy that with the release of Advent Children, there is no gravity in the world and it's just sword fighting, flying stuff. It was interesting when I first saw it, but with the years and years and how it's gone with the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy and seeing it all boil down and seeing also the core of a Final Fantasy game, which in my opinion always was turn-based with the active time battle system, become more evolved into an action RPG. This is something I am not too happy about. And that is actually when they showed this absolutely, and I have to be honest here, this absolutely most gorgeous gameplay footage that I've ever seen in a video game so far, because Final Fantasy 15 looks absolutely great. They showed a couple of minutes of gameplay, and while it does look very interesting, it felt a bit sluggish, and compared to other very action JRPG driven titles like Tales series or E series, it just didn't feel very, how would I say, fast paced, on the spot, combo heavy. But we are talking about a game that is still in development. It will probably take at least 2 years before this game comes out. So hopefully they'll tweak it and make it more faster and more, fast paced. But the Final Fantasy 15 trailer, it looked very interesting to me. But with a few things that made me a little bit reserved about it, that I'm not 100% sure on, that I just go full on crazy hyper. I'm saying I need this game right now. That is not yet the case with Final Fantasy 15. Hype management. So I'm very excited for the game, but it's not one of my most excited games. How do you feel about 15's trailer and gameplay, Greg?
Well, for the longest time, and it was funny, one of my friends I was speaking to now, he said to me something that just put things in perspective. When the game was originally Final Fantasy Versus 13, he was in middle school. And right now he's graduated, and it puts things in perspective how long this game has been in development for. Out of all the games a part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis series, this one was always the one that I was interested in the most, and I really like the look of the characters. The setting reminds me of FF7, but with a more emphasis on nobility. It's always just interests me, and I've never had one thing to say about it, not one negative thing to say about it. And I really love what they showed. Now, I dealt with a lot of people that did not think the combat was, as Ero said, fast-paced. The thing that I noticed when I watched the trailer is, ironically, with a game called Final Fantasy, there is a great sense of realism about how the battlefield's going. Like when an enemy runs into Noct, you see his hands try to sway him away, trying to shove him off, trying to dodge him, and the animation is just phenomenal. But in the case of the really impatient gamer who wants to, that's say, go Dante from Devil May Cry, hack and slash sort of into the enemy at a fast pace, it didn't show that it was that type of game. It was more a strategic sort of action RPG where you had to think of what you had to do and where to land your blows and when to dodge. And but the thing is, though, and my opinion has not changed. It is basically as they imagine what they really want to do in the first place. It is a more mature Kingdom Hearts type of game, and how the game moves about it is very reminiscent of Kingdom Hearts. And I think they will take this feedback into consideration, and if people do not think it is fast-paced enough, they'll probably tweak it just a little bit more. Just to probably please everyone. I don't know how this is going to work if most of the game is already done, but who knows, maybe we'll, once we get the demo, we'll play it out for ourselves and get a feel. That's the thing I want to mention as well. Ero said something that resonates with a lot of people. A lot of people aren't sure about the game. They don't want to rush out and buy it day one. I heard this from a lot of people, but when they heard about the demo, it is given them the opportunity to try the game and ultimately gauge an opinion. And that is why I think it is really clever of Square to give this demo to reassure the fans that may have dropped off in the last couple of years, to say, hey, here's another game that you might like. I do have to agree with what Ero said. The Final Fantasy series started off as a turn-based RPG series, and it progressed with the years with the ATB system, and it slowly evolved into this action RPG series, and a lot of people aren't happy about it. But as you know, dear listeners, I love action RPGs, and I love it when they are really well made. And I think out of all the most action RPGs that the Final Fantasy series has offered, this has the potential of being the best if they stick to their guns and to what has been shown. One thing that has been issue has been risen is no one in the older build you can see a menu system that is 100% like Kingdom Hearts, and in this new build you can't see it at all. I don't know if they've taken it out or if you can access the menu by a different means of different button presses. Maybe you have to hold the L and R button to bring up the menu to a set of options to select from. One thing I think I can gather from that side menu, I think it was kind of the target menu where it showcased what character was fighting who. I could be wrong about that because it was all in kanji, and the hit point meters are all to the right hand side of the screen. So maybe it was just for the TGS build. Maybe the hub will look a bit different once we get our hands on the demo. But there has been a lot of jokes flying around calling this game FF Road Trip because of most of the trailer shows the gang in the car riding about. And there was some articles hinting that you can get out of the car at any stage of the ride. And I said to myself, if this is true, this is my biggest selling point in the game, because one of my favorite RPGs of last gen was Xenoblade Chronicles, and one of the reasons for it is because it was this wondrous open world RPG, and I got this feeling that Final Fantasy 15 could be like this. And I gotta say, the game that I will not mention made me very claustrophobic, and seeing 15 in action, if it is the opposite to what that offered, then it could be a truly wonderful game. There's also another article that's hinting that for anyone who doesn't feel like riding around a car is their forte, you can get on the back of a very faithful old friend. I'm talking about the Chocobo.
Oh, thank God. Ah, yeah.
I don't know if that's true yet because we haven't seen footage, but it was something that was hinted. Square might do this to please the old fans who might not be happy with the car. I've heard other articles stating that with the car, you can drive it, or you can get one of the characters to drive it and just enjoy the lovely scenery. I think if they are going to make this open world, they need to put collectibles and side offerings galore to make it the best it possibly can be. And with the wide open environments that I've seen, not just the countryside, in the main city where they're fighting the behemoth, and you can have Noctis hook on to different parts of the areas, you know, there is this great sense of exploration that was void in previous Final Fantasy games. You know, it can succeed if they go about it the right way. And I am sort of taking this neutral position on whether it be good or bad, but I'm more optimistic than pessimistic, in my opinion. One thing I do have to mention, and I'm sure Aero got a kick out of this, is Square making fun of their fans at the end of the trailer. Saying it is almost here, having Noctis saying it is almost here, the wait is nearly over.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how you mention it. I think I've kind of evolved as a gamer and what I expect out of games, and I am, maybe it's my personality shift, but I'm very critical and very pessimistic of game releases nowadays. And that might be misunderstood when people listen to me and think that I hate the game. It's not the case. I'm very, very excited for Final Fantasy 15. It's just Square Enix has burned me a couple of times, and you mentioned a couple of interesting things. It's what for me Final Fantasy was always about was this epic, wonderful story with absolutely fantastic visuals and great characters, but also the ability to just roam around for free, do these fun side quests, and get new summons, get new items, weapons, materia, skills, whatever, and do these mini games and stuff that feels you rewarded when you go off the beaten path and do some extra things. And that has not always been the case in the recent Final Fantasy games. And I really hope that Final Fantasy 15 can bring some of this back. Two things that I personally am not very keen on so far is the car. It just looks too realistic. I would be very happy if they had some more sci-fi related thing, but this just feels like some sort of, you know, real life thing. But you know, it's just an aesthetic thing. I can run around with it. But secondly, from the trailer, there are only guy characters, and call me lame, but I prefer female protagonists in my game as well. And I haven't seen some ladies yet, so yeah.
I don't want to point the finger at if lightning is the cause, because the thing about RPGs is, especially a series like Final Fantasy, I really like it when they take it in turns. I really like it when they have a male main protagonist, and then in the next game they have a female main protagonist. I mean, before Lightning, there was Terra, and I know Final Fantasy VI is a little bit in the, well, this character could be considered the main character, or this character could be considered the main character. For me, it was always Terra, and she's kind of my favorite, one of my favorite Final Fantasy female characters. But what Arrow's getting at is the entire party consisting of not just males, but also throwing in another female character, which is a possibility, because besides this so-called love interest or friend of Noctis, there was also what I believe to be a female-looking dragoon, but she more looked like an antagonist more than anything. But you know, hopefully there'll be another female character that's thrown into the mix that we don't know about and sort of mix things up a bit. The thing is I'm going into this adding everything I've seen about the game, not just what's been shown at this TGS, what's also been shown at previous gaming shows as well. And it is starting to paint a very vivid picture. I mean, I would say the one safe element of this game that I'm very happy about, and call me old school RPG fan, you know, a peace-loving kingdom under threat by a evil empire never gets old for me.
Yeah, that is always good. That is always fun.
And they bring that back with Final Fantasy 15, and I do like the older trailers where they showed like the human side of the king, basically in the old flashback when Noctis was a kid, and then everything falling to ruins as well. It really does paint a really good picture, and I would say I'm probably the most optimistic of 15 more than anything else that Square's got. Well, there's one other thing that Square's got planned that was really shocking, and we'll get into that very soon.
All right, yeah, no, yeah, that's. I think we talked about 15 enough. Let's wait until the demo hits with Type 0 HD, and we can make up our minds a little bit better. This was not all that Square talked about. They have some other great games in the pipeline. I would say one of the most hyped Square games or Final Fantasy games that I'm really looking forward to. It's Final Fantasy G-Bike. Nah.
Joking aside, I'd actually download it if I could, just because I'm such a huge FF7 fan, and I really liked the bike segments from there. There's only one thing wrong with this new iPhone version of it. You know what it is? That catchy theme from the original game is not there.
Yeah, that was very catchy, yeah.
I think they might have remixed it, but they remixed it a bit too hard that it doesn't sound like anything that it once was. And if there's an option to put that thing back in, I would actually play it for a few seconds. Look, it is a take 2 minutes out of the day game to play. You won't. I'm guessing there would be some hardcore people that would binge play it, but no, it's not going to be that type of game. It really is a smartphone type of game, and something like that, I reckon it would be fun. You just touch where Cloud swings his Buster Sword, and they've gone crazy with adding other characters. Like you see Tifa come in, perform her limit breaks. You know, it is a fan game. It is a fan game for the lovely and very loyal following FF7 fans to this day still support whatever FF7 crumbs Square throws at them.
Yeah, no, I'll check it out. I believe it's a free-to-play game. Yeah, I'll check it out on my iPhone and have fun with it. It was one of my favorite mini games. I always enjoyed that in the actual game, and then whenever you could access it in the Gold Saucer. They have done the snowboarding mini game back in Japan when they had awesome smartphones and we didn't. Yeah, it is a fun little announcement, but yeah, nothing to get too hung up about. However, one of the big announcements though is Final Fantasy Agito Plus. So for those who have no idea what we're talking about here, this is basically a prequel to Type 0, and Final Fantasy Agito Plus, or actually Final Fantasy Agito, came out on iOS and Android in Japan only. What has been announced now is that they are going to be releasing a PlayStation Vita port of Final Fantasy Agito called Final Fantasy Agito Plus, which is going to be free to play, and yes, it will have microtransactions. I have not really looked too far into this game because it's a prequel to Type 0. I haven't played Type 0 to the end yet. But it is interesting to see that this game is coming to what I would say a major gaming console. For me, iOS still is not... It has great games on it, but it's not a well-renowned gaming console. To have it on a PlayStation Vita is going to be interesting. So free-to-play is nice. They're in Japan at least. There's going to be a packaged version of it. For retail, and there's nothing on a localization yet. However, the game, at least on iOS and Android, that is coming to the West. So we are able to play Agito in English at some point in time. The PlayStation Vita version at this point is not confirmed yet, but hopefully it will be very easy and straightforward to port. And with the release of Type 0 HD on the PS4 and Xbox One, it kind of makes sense to do Agito Plus on the PlayStation Vita in English as well, right? So it is a nice announcement to see that they are kind of building on the Type 0 and the Agito universe. Haven't seen too much on the game, but if I'm really invested into Type 0, I can safely say that I'll definitely want to check out more and play this prequel in this series.
I think at the least, if it doesn't get a hard copy in the West, it will definitely get a digital PSN release.
Yeah.
That's my call.
Yeah. So that is it's coming out early 2015, January in Japan on the PS Vita. So this is not something really groundbreaking. It's basically a smartphone RPG port, but it is interesting to see that this is coming out. So yeah, that's Final Fantasy Agito Plus. Now another game that has been announced a couple of months ago, but they now are showing a lot more about, is a game called Final Fantasy Explorers for the 3DS, which everybody is dubbing the Final Fantasy meets Monster Hunter, where it's a very action RPG-esque title, which is very akin to the Monster Hunter universe. It is also very multiplayer-centric. I go into this game thinking it might be a very entertaining one, but on the other hand, I also think that it might be a very disappointing one. But for me, Final Fantasy Explorers, of course, any Final Fantasy title, it warrants some hype and some interest. But it is very interesting to see that the 3DS is still getting some Final Fantasy love. I'll talk a little bit more about 3DS and Final Fantasy in a few minutes, but Final Fantasy Explorers, for somebody who is not at all interested in Monster Hunter-like games, this might be some sort of gateway into this new subgenre of JRPGs. So I believe the game has not been announced for a Western release yet, but you know you will see that happen at a Nintendo Direct. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, Greg, are you interested in Final Fantasy Explorers?
Just before the podcast, I did a big recap of all the videos that was shown about Explorers, and when I saw the initial announcement, I was like, exactly as Era said, it's going to be their foray into the Monster Hunter, or as they like to call it in Japan, the collab battle genre. And I thought to myself, this is fan service in that sort of form. It does based upon that sort of select group of Final Fantasy fans that do love the job system. And the reason I'm interested is because, like I said, I love action RPGs, and from what I can gather from what I've seen in the trailers, the combat system looks very fluid, looks pretty awesome. I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, if I end up playing the game, I'm going to choose my favorite class. Not only because it's my favorite class, it's because it's probably the best looking class in terms of the moves they could pull off, and that is the Dragoon, of course. The Dragoon in Explorers just kicks some major ass, and the moves that you can pull off, from throwing the javelin to the legendary jump move, it's just absolutely awesome. Now, there was something that Ero mentioned that I have to clarify, and I did read someone pointing this out, and it was a very good point. From what they actually showed of single player versus multiplayer, the person who was playing a single player had a very difficult time versus the people that were playing a multiplayer said it was far easier. And I said to myself, that is something that you need to fix, because you can't hold people who want to play a game single player at gunpoint that they have to go online and play with other people. That's not good. That's kind of how I quit Final Fantasy XIV, and I was really enjoying Final Fantasy XIV until they held a gun to my head saying, hey, here's the duty quest, you have to pair up with other people. And I'd rather the option of, let's make the game a little bit easier with other players. But if you so want to incline to tackle a single player, it'll be a little bit harder. But if you want to work towards making it easy, we'll also let you do that. And in that case, I think they will have to do some major tweaks, because in single player mode, you only have the one character, and for the video, they had a chocobo AI, and that chocobo met a very swift death very quickly. So unless you can have other Final Fantasy monsters as AI buddies, then hopefully you can make the game easier, or at least make the game challenging but fair. So that must be something they might have to work on.
Okay. I'm pretty much done with MMORPGs. It's just not my type of game. I'm still not very into multiplayer games. So this is why I'm going into this game with a lot of reservations. So, but it's on the list. Of course, as always, I'm interested in Final Fantasy titles. So I'll see how this game develops, and hopefully they'll tweak it for single player as well.
There is one thing that I would say I'm turning to a very, not a negative view on, but I think if Square wants to succeed in this next gen, they got to rely on the original content they are creating and be more supportive of it. The thing that kind of made me sigh a little bit is Final Fantasy Explorers has this system where you can turn into characters of previous games, yet being another Square Enix game that relies heavily on past fan service to support the game, and I don't think that should be the main reason. Like, it showed that you can play as Cloud, or you can play as Squall, you can play as Lightning, and what's even more ridiculous is you don't actually play with their weapons. You play whatever the class's weapons was. So you see Cloud with like a shield and a sword, and he's like, that's not right.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's just a skin or something, but it's fun to see.
Yeah, the thing that I thought was a little bit cool, and I know that makes me a little bit hypocritical to say, is whenever you turn into that character, it does change the battle theme to that certain game that character was a part of, and that's kind of cool. But at the end of the day, it is just fan service. They should be focusing on all other parts of the game before they really shove that into people's faces. But hey, the marketing department, Square Enix, must think that must be the biggest selling point to get older fans to play it, and I think they should be relying on other avenues to sell the game.
Yeah, I understand. All right, so I think those are all the major Final Fantasy announcements. There was one more. So Greg, do you know what's coming to Steam?
No, I don't. I wish I didn't.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy.
I will say one thing though. There is another Final Fantasy game they announced for Steam, and it is actually a worthy purchase. That's Final Fantasy 4. Go get that game instead of the one that Arrow's going to talk about.
Why do you bring that up? That is actually disappointing, because I know Final Fantasy 4, it is my favorite, but the thing is they ported the DS version to Steam, not the PSP version.
I like the DS version. I think the performances are actually really cool. Well, I know there's a lot of people that don't like the DS version, but that was the first one I played. This was in the heyday where I think that year the DS was one of my favorite systems, and I just kept playing DS Beyond DS game. And that came out, it's like, you know what? I'll give this another try. And I absolutely fell in love with the game. And to hear that, the iPhone port is based on the DS port, and I think the Steam release is based on the iPhone port. All good, I know there's a lot of people that prefer the 2D versions. Whatever floats your boat, how you want to play Final Fantasy 4, go for it. It's all awesome.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not saying that the DS version was bad. It was fun, but for me, it's all about that PSP complete collection. But it's the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy is coming to Steam, and we're not done yet with 13, right? We know it's coming. There's going to be like a PS4 bundle collection pack, an Xbox One bundle pack, and then we'll never get rid of this. I'm not saying the Final Fantasy trilogy is bad. I haven't played Lightning Returns yet, so I'm just missing 33% out of a trilogy. But man, I am dreading the point where I need to delve into Lightning Returns. But let's not go crazy there. We have so much to talk about.
Yep.
It's great to have JRPGs coming to Steam. Whether they are good ones or bad ones, there needs to be more JRPGs on PC. So that was all Final Fantasy related.
Actually, one more piece of
Yeah,
news,
sure.
sort of related to Final Fantasy, and I will say this wins the one of the TGS awards of funniest things announced at TGS. This isn't a game. This is a service.
Oh yeah.
And this is a service, and it's going to be Square Enix's streaming service. And I thought, oh, they talked about this ages ago, and they have a name for the company. And I was like, oh, what's the name? When I saw the name of the company, I couldn't help but laugh and smile at the same time. I shit you not, dear listeners, the name of the streaming service, or the company providing the streaming service, is none other than Shinra Technologies.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, it's very fun to see that they actually take names from their games, and it's a really funny name. Am I interested in this cloud streaming service at all? No, but it's a funny name, and it got a chuckle out of me when it was announced.
Do you know who heads the department over there for the streaming service?
No, no.
The former president of Square Enix, Yoichi Iwata.
Oh, okay, okay. He's taking that up then. All right. Yeah. Let's not get into cloud streaming. It's an interesting topic, but I don't feel we're ready for it yet. But it's a great to see Square Enix trying that as well. And I believe they announced Final Fantasy 13 to be cloud streamed to your devices. I believe PlayStation 3. So for a cheap price. So yeah, that's fine. Interested how that's going to pan out in the gaming industry. So let's move on to yeah. Is it Final Fantasy news? Is it a new IP? It is Bravely Second. Bravely Second is coming out at the end of 2014 in Japan. Hopefully, this game will get a Western release in 2015, sometime summer. But the game really looks very nice. They announced a lot of new classes. They announced some new characters. And even though I am only halfway through the original Bravely Default, I am really enjoying my time with the game. It really feels like an evolution of the traditional Final Fantasy games. It has a fantastic job system. In my opinion, really sort of mature story being told on the crystals, save the crystals cliche or storytelling. And I'm really enjoying Bravely Default, which makes me really interested to play Bravely Second. There was some negative stuff about the original Bravely Default that I hopefully they'll realize and then fix in Bravely Second. But yeah, it's great to see another great Final. I still see it as a Final Fantasy title, but oh well, it's the new Bravely IP. To see this come out on 3DS, I'm very excited for it. So Greg, have you played Bravely Default at all yet?
I've played the demo, and I seem to be the only person in the community that has not jumped on to get the full game yet. Like I mentioned before earlier in the podcast, before the politics of how I was feeling about the company sort of prevented me from buying Bravely Default. But I'm sort of, after this TGS weekend, I did some soul searching, and it's like, you know what, maybe I should just put that stuff to the side, don't think about it, just worry about the games. And in that right mindset, I go back to my time with the Bravery Default demo, and I really enjoyed the combat. It harkened back to the good old days of the turn-based ATB system Final Fantasy provided. And of course, the job system plays a big important part there, and you can go nuts with all the combinations. So yeah, I think I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get a copy, but I've heard that they might be. I think they're reprinting them at a steady pace, so I think I still have a chance to get it. And of course, if all else fails, I can download it from the eShop eventually.
Yeah, that is a possibility. I haven't finished it yet, but I recommend it, especially for a cheap copy if you can find it. It's a fun. Yeah, it's kind of like Final Fantasy VII if we never went the 3D route. It kind of feels like that, similar to Final Fantasy Dimensions, but just evolved. And it's a fun little battle system and story. So check it out if you can find it, and hopefully if you like it, you'll also check out Bravely Second. That is pretty much it from a Square perspective, not for one particular game that I'm going to let Greg do the honors, and that is Dragon Quest Heroes.
This was the defining shock announcement at the pre-TGS conference when everyone was getting ready to leave their seats, and a lot of people were leaving the stream. They had one more surprise they wanted to pull out. The two names I never thought I would ever see together in this lifetime was Square Enix and Koei. At that point, I had a feeling what was coming. When I heard the first sounds of the Dragon Quest theme, I already deducted that this is going to be a Dragon Quest Warriors game. Or so I thought. I actually did some more research, and I actually found out there is going to be more to this game than just being a simple Warriors game. For all of you who don't know about Koei, Koei's been a long-time Japanese video game developer whose original mandate was to make historic simulation games. And they pretty much did this up until the PS2 era, where they released a little-known game, you might have heard of it, called Dynasty Warriors, and that took off and began what's known as the Muso genre. You know, where it's an action sort of strategy setting. You know, in a warlike setting, you hack hundreds and hundreds of enemies on a screen, and it is a very popular genre in Japan. And of course, one of the biggest shock announcements before this was when they partnered with Nintendo for the upcoming Hyrule Warriors, which I'm hoping my copy will come in the mail tomorrow, because it's supposed to come on Friday. Anyway, I've got to say, from what I saw, what they showed at TGS, the game is just absolutely beautiful. And for long-time Dragon Quest fans, this is something you need. I mean, Dragon Quest has been the great-grandfather of traditional turn-based battle systems. Most people have played a Dragon Quest game. And most fans, I would like to think in some shape or form, wanted to see all these epic battles take place in a live-action, real-time setting. And Dragon Quest Heroes finally provides fans that experience. Now, from what I've gathered, the game will not be just a straight Muso game. It will actually be very similar to another game that they recently developed and released called Tokiden. And Tokiden is another collab battle game similar to Monster Hunter, where you play as samurai who defend this village against Oni. And I've played the demo for Tokiden, and it is a really good game. It's got a lot more RPG elements than your typical Monster Hunter game, and it looks like the Dragon Quest Heroes will have even more RPG elements. I mean, who would have thunk it, right? Most traditional RPG of all time have more RPG elements. So, yeah, they've added a lot from Dragon Quest into this experience and mixed it up nicely with all the elements that Koei provides as well. The thing that I will say that makes it a Warriors game is the amount of enemies on the screen. It's actually more than most Dynasty Warriors games, and that's saying a lot. And the thing that all the variations of the different Dragon Quest monsters you've all grown to love, all bunched together, and you take them all on. It's just this wondrous feeling. And besides all the little enemies, they do bring back the real big enemies, and they actually make them harder than ever before, to the point of being subbed to even boss monsters. Really wonderful game, and I saw a couple of gameplay trailers that shows the game in action. The one thing I think it's really nice to touch, of course, is Kira Toyama's artwork is beautiful. I like the characters that have been introduced in the game. And of course, they announced the previous characters from other Dragon Quest games to be selectable characters as well, which is really nice. I heard just before TGS ended, they had a live poll from the hardcore Dragon Quest fans for what Dragon Quest V character they would like to see in the game, and the character known as Bianca, who is the blonde-haired girl, she won. So they could be putting her in the game, which is pretty awesome as well. One of the other nice touches I really like is very minor touches. They've got the number font from the later Dragon Quest games. When you hit something, it appears, and I think that's a nice little touch. The other thing is, they have all the battle themes from the other Dragon Quest games that cycle, just to give you, it's sort of like a Dragon Quest jukebox, if you will call it, and it's really nice to hear. The thing that I was really concerned about, but not really to a degree, is the first trailers only shows the one castle town that surrounds a big tree, and I thought for the most part that's where the game will take place. However, they released an image of the world map, and it is a very traditional Dragon Quest world, so you do not have to worry about that. One thing that did sort of add from the Dynasty Warriors series that they've mixed with the Dragon Quest series really nice is in the latest Dynasty Warriors games, you do have like a special meter when charged. If you release it, it gives your character a lot more power and ends in a special move. What they've done for Dragon Quest Heroes, if they've mixed this with the well-known tension element, where if you rise the tension of the character, they inflict more damage. But in this version, it's actually in the form of a gauge, and for a couple of minutes, you have an increased stats, and it will end in a very epic Dragon Quest ability with the main character. They showed him doing the Giga Slash. If you've played the other Dragon Quest games, you know that's one of the swordsman ultimate abilities. So that was really cool to see that in action. It is a wonderful game, and it has been announced for, I think, roughly mid 2015 for the PS3 and the PS4. And my money is going to the PS4 version. They announced today that it will be 60 frames per second, and I really like my Warriors games to be 60 frames per second because that's kind of what I grew up with playing the older ones. But this is not just your typical Warriors game. It is going to be an action RPG with just elements thrown in from both franchises. So, whew, that was a lot. But Aero, is there any interest to play Dragon Quest Heroes?
When the news was announced, I was like, okay, that's nice, but yeah, whatever. With my whole pessimistic approach, I know you are very well versed into Koei's Dynasty Warrior series. Me myself, not so much. And action action RPG games, it's not my definitive favorite genre. I would say it's I've always preferred turn-based or strategy. And then you also add in the fact that it's action RPG, but it's bordering the line of hack and slash games, which is a genre that I'm really not very fond of. But now with this TGS, and I've seen more gameplay on it, and I've seen the absolutely awesome Akira Toriyama artwork coming to life. It looks really great, and the time feels right because there indeed has not been a Dragon Quest game in quite a while. I am indeed one of the people in the crowd that's saying, sure, Dragon Quest 7, I would like to play it on 3DS, but I've already played the PS1 version for, I would say, 20-30 hours. I was not really invested into it. It's one of my least favorite Dragon Quest games, so Dragon Quest Heroes, I'm excited for it. It's not an MMO like Dragon Quest X, and one of my favorite spin-offs for Dragon Quest is actually Dragon Quest Swords, which was this Wii game which basically had you running around in a first-person view, hacking and slashing. But that was a whole fantastically drawn 3D realized world with Dragon Quest, and it had that charm and dialogue and characters. And Dragon Quest Heroes, it looks very interesting, and I'm comparing this to that other Warriors game that is coming out, which is Hyrule Warriors, where I'm like, yeah, I'm not the biggest Zelda fan. I'm going to skip that one, even though I'm really recommending this game if you're a Zelda fan. But with Dragon Quest Heroes, I like the series a lot more. And here I'm thinking, yeah, PlayStation 4, absolutely great visuals. I gotta support it. So I'm getting hyped for this game. And especially if it comes out in a slow period where there's not a lot of other games where you need to prioritize your backlog, Dragon Quest Heroes is definitely a game that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. And it's definitely I've definitely warmed up to the game a lot more than its initial announcement a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I will say for any Dragon Quest fan who is really scared to the fact that this might not come out, I say it has a better chance than most. And the other reason is if you really want to play it, you can play it for the gameplay because thankfully, because it's on the PS3 and the PS4, you can import it. I'm actually going to be importing a copy just in case for that reason. And so I can play it as soon as possible and hack and slash all my favorite Dragon Quest critters into oblivion.
Yeah, yeah, that is really interesting because the Dragon Quest series, it has such, I would say, traditional enemies, and that is going to be a lot of fun. And even though I am a more recent Dragon Quest fan because I only started playing these games around 2010, I believe, with Dragon Quest 4, um, yeah, I'm interested. I'm really craving for a traditional Dragon Quest experience. Hopefully, 11 will deliver on that. But we have Dragon Quest Heroes to keep me satisfied until then. So, yeah,
Now,
I'm excited.
speaking of 11, this is something that is mentioned today, and if you're a fan of cryptic puzzles and when people suggest things, Yuji Horii could be a crafty little person. Basically, there are two demos at TGS. In one demo, you are level 8. In the other demo, you are level 11. Some person wrote online and just realized the last PlayStation Dragon Quest game was 8. And the other
Oh
demo,
no,
the character...
this is getting into Valve Half-Life 3 confirmed theories here. This is crazy.
and people, and apparently Square Enix said no comment or just didn't elaborate. But I said to myself, I've talked about it with other people. If they actually release 11 for Sony consoles, I think that'd be the best situation. Nothing against the Wii U. I love the Wii U. But I think having the Dragon Quest series return to a multi-platform state of mind is the best thing that can happen for it at this juncture. If the series wants to have a better chance, I think it would pay to put the game on something like a PS4. I still want Dragon Quest 7 for my 3DS, but if I had to pick a console for Dragon Quest 11, I want it to be on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, the thing with, even though there's so limited information and it's not really announced yet, Dragon Quest 11 for me, it's kind of feels like the definitive Dragon Quest game for two reasons. Yuji Horii and the original team, they've been working on this series for a very long time, and this kind of feels like they're all the experience that they've gained from all the main games, all the spin-offs, turn it into one massive epic, tying into the nostalgic turn-based factor, high-res visuals, and just jam-pack it with interesting stuff, and just really make it the definitive Dragon Quest experience. And Dragon Quest 8 already felt like that, even though it was very at the beginning for me with Dragon Quest. But now we're a couple years later, Dragon Quest 11 can deliver on that. So I am very excited to see how it's going to be panning out and to have that on a PlayStation 4, which just had so much more graphical capabilities and I believe a lot more units sold. Um, I would hope to see a PlayStation 4 Dragon Quest 11 turn-based, fantastic visuals. Um, just yeah, this is what I'm hoping for. It will, and then you can also still have the line of handheld titles and go for there and maybe port the rest of the stuff because I'm still hoping for the original Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 on the 3DS. But yeah, it this is like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. This is where Square Enix with Dragon Quest, they can change it. They can momentum shift back with Dragon Quest Heroes, localize the ports that haven't been released yet, and then hype it all up for Dragon Quest 11. And then hopefully in 2 years' time, we're all gushing about how awesome the Dragon Quest games are that have been released in the last 18 months, and we forget about this horrible Western experience that we're getting right now.
If they do everything right, they can enter a generation where both Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest is loved universally, and customer satisfaction, fan satisfaction can go up. It's basically their generation to lose, but it's their generation to win. So if they choose,
Yeah, yeah, it's It's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out because we all know that Dragon Quest is the definitive and first Japanese RPG system to put the genre or series to put the genre on the map. And yeah, Square Enix has a great player in their hands, and they should not neglect it for over like Final Fantasy or all their more Western with IDOS experience that they're having, like Tomb Raider and Deus Ex. They should hold true to their roots and realize that there's so many big Dragon Quest fans all across the world, and hopefully that will change. So. I think that about wraps it up for the whole Square part. It's been quite a while since quite a while to talk about Square, but they had for me the strongest presence at TGS and the pre-TGS, except for two other companies that we'll talk about at the end of the podcast. So yeah, Greg, what are some of the miscellaneous Japanese RPGs? There's this one company that is very popular in the West as well, and I just really am not that invested into that particular type of series or games. I believe this is Bloodborne, right?
Yeah, I did watch the stream for it, and I had sort of it was the first thing shown at TGS, and I was so hyped. My excitement was through the roof. Whatever it was, I was going to watch it, and it was Bloodborne. And yeah, I'm not the biggest From Software fan. I do try their games at least to see what people love about them, just to see the aesthetics and how the game was made. And they have a certain type of game that has just garnered this hardcore audience, the hardcore we only like games for challenge audience that's just rose from the shadows. And they want a game like Bloodborne. Basically, Bloodborne is this game that takes place in this very Victorian-esque town, this sort of cursed town that holds this a cure that cures any ailment, and anyone who's sick goes to that town to find the cure so they can get better. But it's chock full of the undead, demonic creatures, you name it. It's not something I'm going to go into too much. I just will say a few things on it. One, I think the weapon designs are very interesting and very intricate. One of the things I really liked was one of the characters the character was fighting with a sword, but he had this big hammer head on his back, and he slid his sword into the hammer head, and then the sword became a hammer. There was sort of this scythe little knife that did become you have to see it to believe it. It's very hard to describe, but the weaponry is very original and it is very interesting to see. The biggest thing I will have to say is I think the animation on this game is gorgeous. The character the player was using has a cloak of feathers, and I could count every feather had a piece of animation. It was flowing in different directions when it was windy. A lot of attention to detail. It looks really good. However, this is something that would not be number one on my must-buy list. If it was like really dirt cheap and I was really craving something like it, I would give it a go.
All right, all right. Yeah, I've just not been invested. I've played a little bit of Demon Souls and maybe an hour or two, and I wasn't invested in it. And then they had Dark Souls 1 and 2, and sometimes I try to limit the number of games that I buy, and tend to stay very focused on the things that I enjoy already, and that fills up my yearly gaming already. So I'll always try to keep an eye on, especially when games get closer to release. And I know it's very well loved, especially in the communities and the YouTube gaming community. There's a lot of big fans on this that really look forward to this game. So if you are one of those, Bloodborne, it's coming in February 2015. So get hype. Yeah.
What I'm gonna do now is I'm looking at our time because we've only got so much time to record this episode, and we went into overdrive with our Square talk, and it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. So what I'm gonna do as a favor, especially to Aero, I'm going to just fire off a few RPGs that were talked about and were announced, but don't want to go into too horribly much because we've got a lot of other great topics we want to talk about. So I'm just going to rapid fire these off and just give a little bit of details. Arc System Works has an RPG called Inferno Climber, for the PS4, and I watched the trailer of it today. Oh my god, it is a very simplistic action RPG that looked like it was created by a 5-year-old.
Ah, I love Arc
and,
System Works.
and the platforming was really off. The character kept falling down. I was like, this must be an early build. It must be an early build. And it also screamed in indie case, and nothing against indie game developers. There's a good chance I'll become an indie developer if things pan out, so nothing against them. But for a company like Arc System Works, who's capable of so much more, it's a bit, yeah. So if you've got an interest in that, see what happens to it. Next up is a company that I'm not a huge fan of, but I have played a couple of their games. They are most known for these days for the Neptunia series that has surprisingly gathered an audience, and they basically talked about Neptunia. Well, one of the things they announced was Neptunia Rebirth 3 V-Century, and you can already guess it. It is a portable version of Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory for the PlayStation Vita. Nothing much to talk about other than that. The other big thing, of course, is Neptunia Victory 2 for the PS4. Then they had a small trailer that showed off mechs fighting. Nothing too much to show off other than that. It will definitely keep, these two games will definitely keep Neptunia fans happy. And I'm not really a huge Neptunia fan. I am to a degree because of the Falcom content they put in it. The Falcom content in Mark II was hilarious, and that was pretty much the highlight for the game. So, other than that, the other two games they mentioned was Omega Quintet, part of their so-called Galapagos RPG label, and this is, and you listen to the name, think, oh, this is going to be awesome. Then you find out it's an RPG about idols.
Yay!
Yeah. If you love idols, here's an RPG for you. Last, I will save the best till last though. The last game they talked about is Fairy Fencer F Advent Dark Force. Now, I played the demo for Fairy Fencer F, and I was actually really surprised. Even though there's still that compile heart, gaggy, light humor nature about it, there's also this dark underlining theme about the game. And I've been hearing from a lot of people who've been playing it recently that it is actually a lot more darker than other compile heart RPGs. And one of the reasons for this is two of the big three of the Final Fantasy creation team, both Nobuo Uematsu and Yoshitaka Amano did help out with Fairy Fencer F. I think Amano did just a couple pieces of artwork, but Uematsu, along with Earthbound Papas, did a lot of the music. I actually liked the demo I played in the Japanese version, and very conveniently, the game is officially released in the rest of the world as of the recording of this podcast just recently. I'm going to wait until the game is a little bit cheaper. I'm actually going to try it out. This game that they announced for the PS4 is not a port, but apparently it contains a bit of the original game, and the rest of the game is completely new. So it's kind of weird for them to do that, but maybe there's a reason for it. So, Arrow, is there any interest for all the compile heart RPGs that I just talked about then?
What? Something compile? I'm sorry, guys. I know there's a dedicated crowd following NIS, Compile Heart, Image Epoch. What else is there? Gust. I'm sorry, guys. I'm very happy that these games get released and get especially localized. Very, very great by NIS America. And then also the NIS games, the NIS American games themselves, like Disgaea. They're just not for me. So I just tune out. And for instance, just briefly, look at the Neptunia series. Like, there's no logic or reason in their titles. I have no idea where to start. It is confusing. And yeah, at least Disgaea is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but Neptunia, it's crazy. Like Thief, Victory, Hyperdimension, Rebirth. Whoa, mind blown. So, and I know Square Enix does the same thing. a little bit hypocritical there, but it's great that these games get announced, but they're coming out so fast from these companies, and they are, for me, always very mediocre JRPGs. They are fun, very anime-esque, lots of humor, but the gameplay is just not what I want to play. It just always feels like I've played this before, and yeah, it's just so much that I just say, I'm just going to ignore that whole side of the JRPG market. Maybe not a good thing to do, but my time is so limited with such a demanding job nowadays that I only play what I can play and really want to play. So, yeah.
Just very quickly, I do play Neptunia games, but I'm not like gaga over them. Like, I will play them because the thing is in Australia is they go really dirt cheap, really fast. And I always seem to get them at either half or a quarter of the price, and that's exactly how I'm always going to collect them. Neptunia is for a very limited audience. It is the one RPG series I cannot recommend to everyone. You have to be a fan of anime. You have to be a long-term fan of the gaming industry and the hobby as a general, because there are so many references that are very subtle that if you are not, you're not going to get any enjoyment out of them. Like, I was one of the only people that enjoyed the Falcom DLC because all the jokes were all Falcom-centric, and I can only be understood if you've played the E series or if you've played Legend of Heroes, and that's ultimately what it is. It is a comedic parody of the gaming industry, so to speak. And if you're not invested in gaming, in that manner, you're not going to get any enjoyment out of Neptunia. I get some enjoyment out of it, but it's not something I crave. I mean, I have Victory. I bought Victory nearly 2 years ago. It hasn't been even put into my PS3 yet because I'm not in the mood to play it yet. There will be one day, but the day hasn't come yet. So, but I will go and reiterate and say Furry Fence F is probably the most interesting game that Compile Heart has made in a very long time. So hopefully I'll probably get that and let you guys know if it's any good or not. But as Ero alluded to, there's a lot more that I'm just going to fire off here. Of course, Image Epoch has another Luminous Arc game, this time for the Vita, called Luminous Arc Infinity. I didn't do too much research on this game, just to know it's another Luminous Arc game, which is a strategy RPG made by Image Epoch. It's actually one of Image Epoch, if not the first series they worked on, and had some very interesting names behind it. Like, the music was done by none other than Yasunori Matsuda, of all people, which was very interesting. I don't know if he's back doing this track. It would be awesome if he is. I like the fact that this is on the Vita because this is a series that basically dominated the Nintendo DS as one of the more known series for the Nintendo DS. There isn't really anything else apart from that, so on to the next game, and that is Disgaea 5, which was Nipponichi Software's only offering a TGS. And I actually like Disgaea, well, most of their games. I like 1 and 3. I actually don't like 2 because I don't like the cast of characters in 2. I recently tried to play 4, and the cast of characters in 4 don't really sit well for me in most parts. So I have this series that I'm sort of off and on, loving, not loving. I will say gameplay wise, nothing really changes. It's very traditional. I do love the battle system, how it sort of breaks the strategy RPG formula with all these crazy elements it's thrown in, and how it breaks the fourth wall with the ridiculous damage counters that you can do, and all this jazz. I actually consider it to be the first major RPG parody game, and I do enjoy it for some regards. I do have fun with it, but sometimes you can get too carried away with, say, like the item worlds, and you do get burned out, and I got burned out on Disgaea 4 big time. I do plan to beat Disgaea 4 at some stage. However, from what I've read of Disgaea 5, it seems more interesting than 4 at least. You play as a character who's bent on revenge. The game takes place in numerous Neverworlds, and if you're a long-time fan, that's where all the games sort of take place. And it seems that various Neverworlds has risen up in rebellion against this being called Void Dark, which the main character wants to get revenge against. And I've said revenge a numerous time because apparently that's the theme of the game. And they're going to hammer it in so bad that it also becomes the biggest gameplay element of the game they introduced into Disgaea 5. If a character dies, it can trigger the revenge status where your characters get angry and have a huge stat boost to avenge their friend. And I think that's a pretty cool little element that they introduced. I'm interested to see how that is going to be put into place. Now, there is going to be a demo in Japan next month in October, and they're hoping to release the game in Japan around sometime in 2015, I think around March. So, yeah, if you love the Disgaea series, and a lot of people do love Disgaea 5, they will be no doubt waiting for this. And if you're worried about localization, hey, NIS America wouldn't be NIS America without Disgaea, so it's coming.
Yeah,
Don't worry, guys.
Yeah.
And I think to round off sort of this quick fire part of the TGS episode, 2 more games I want to talk about. These are the offerings from Capcom. First one is Deep Down, which is a real-time dungeon crawler type RPG, sort of randomized dungeon crawler RPG, sort of like the same vein as Diablo. And I will say that this was one of the first games that I saw for the PlayStation 4 that had my jaw drop. The effects, the visuals look beautiful. And we all assumed that there was going to be like this Dragon Dogma sort of same sort of set period. But then as more information was released, you soon find out that the game does not actually take place in medieval times. It actually takes place in the future, where you play as a character who can access the memories of artifacts that's collected, and basically it generates these medieval dungeons, or I should say these dungeons based on when the artifact came from. And the trailer they showed was beautiful. The visuals are amazing. The voice acting was in English, which sort of alludes to a worldwide release. And I'm not usually a huge sort of dungeon crawling fan. I sort of am. I play a lot of them. I actually am going to try Deep Down when it comes out. Originally, it was alluded that this was going to be a multiplayer game, but it is going to be a single-player game as well. So, for all of you people worried about that, don't worry. You'll be able to play it single-player as well. I will be. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try it out when it comes out. And lastly, to sound off the list, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Not much to say. It's Monster Hunter. I'm actually playing a lot more Monster Hunter these days. I will probably definitely give it a go, but I'd be more happy if they bring out a Wii U version of this game. I will say this, though. I would probably go as far as to say it's probably the most visually appealing game. Like, in terms of visuals, I think it sets the bar the highest on the 3DS. It's very vivid. The environments look beautiful. It's wonderful. It's a game that already exists. This is just the harder version of the game with more monsters to fight. You know, it's Monster Hunter. You know it. And that's it. And I will say now, Aero, for all that stuff that I just sounded off, was there anything vaguely interested in, or do you still stand by your opinion, what you said before?
Nah. Capcom is also a Monster Hunter. It's not for me, and I apologize, guys, if that rubs you the wrong way. I really respect that you guys enjoy these types of series, and great to see that there's more sequels coming out. And I believe Monster Hunter 4 is going to be very great for the 3DS. But for me personally, not that exciting. There are, however, a couple of miscellaneous RPGs that I am mildly interested in, and those are the games that are coming out by Experience Inc. They recently, through NIS America, as you would believe it, I bought a game published by NIS America again, which was Demon Gaze. And I really enjoyed my time with Demon Gaze. It was a great first-person dungeon crawler. Not as crazy difficult, but I really had some fun with it. And apparently they announced a sequel to be released for Demon Gaze, so Demon Gaze 2. So that is definitely something that I look forward to. And then also recently released in Japan is a game called Tokyo New World Record Operation Abyss, and I'm kind of interested in that as well. One of the great gamers who lives in Japan and is Corn Muffin X Corn Muffin X, and he plays all these very obscure first-person dungeon crawlers when they are released in Japan, and did some great impressions on Tokyo New World Record. So I'm really excited for those two if they come over by courtesy of NIS America. So those are some of the interesting ones that I have on my radar. There is another miscellaneous RPG that's been recently released, which is Lost Dimension, which kind of feels like this hybrid of Valkyria Chronicles and sort of this murder mystery thing, which rubs me the right way because I'm a big on visual novels nowadays. And I'm kind of interested to find out if Lost Dimension is coming over. It's a PlayStation Vita title, also released for the PlayStation 3. And those are, I would say, some of the titles to keep your eyes on if you are looking for some other well-known JRPGs, kind of like, say, a Conception 2 or a Mind Zero or a Demon Gaze that recently came out in, I would say, or March to June. So yeah, that is pretty much it for me from a miscellaneous JRPG perspective.
Alrighty, just to take a little bit of a break from the TGS news hype, we're going to talk about some little-known projects that I think deserve some love and needs more attention. First up, I do want to talk about a game that I'm really waiting for. It is a game that really resonates with me for the reason why I love RPGs, and the thing that will probably get people a little bit excited is this is the only Kickstarter that I have backed, and it's for a game called Cosmic Star Heroine, and it's made by Zboard Games. You may know these guys. They made the games Breath of Death 7, Cthulhu Saves the World, and they also worked on some Penny Arcade RPGs as well. This is their next big RPG, and when they make their RPGs, they usually like to pay homage to a certain system. Like Breath of Death 7 was their homage to the NES. Cthulhu Saves the World was their homage to really early SNES RPGs. And with Cosmic Star Heroine, it's going to pay homage to the 16-bit CD systems like the Mega CD and the Turbo CD, or the PC Engine CD if you want to know the Japanese name. Anyway, basically when I read the list of games that inspired it, I threw down my money quicker than I could. Basically, the game takes a lot of inspiration from Phantasy Star, it takes a lot of inspiration from Suikoden, and it takes a lot of inspiration from Chrono Trigger, especially in how the game is played. The game has that top-down visual style, very similar to Chrono Trigger. Even the sprites are the same size as Chrono Trigger characters, and it's alluded that the battle system will spring to action very much like Chrono Trigger. So that is really awesome. The elements from Suikoden they want to take is you can recruit a lot of characters to basically... I'll get into what the story is about. Basically, you play as this secret agent called Alyssa LaSalle, whose cover is blown and is made known to the public, and she becomes a superstar because of this. And she finds it really hard to get by. And basically, and the point of the game is they're sort of recruiting your own sort of spy agency, and you go across the game and you recruit different characters, and because they said it borrows a lot from Suikoden, there's probably going to be a lot of characters you can recruit. So that's really cool. The reason why they're borrowing it a lot from Phantasy Star is because the universe of this game is set in a sci-fi setting, this fantastical sci-fi setting, sort of harkens back to Phantasy Star. The cutscenes and sort of artwork of the characters do give off this old school Master System sort of Phantasy Star vibe about them, and that resonated with me really quickly. I do receive updates so often because I am a Kickstarter Kickstarter backer, and the game is shaping up really, really nicely, guys. It's currently set for a December release. You can get it on various networks on PC, especially Steam, other ways, and it's also going to be released on PSN, whether you want to play it for your PS3 or Vita. I can't remember if it's announced for PS4. I think it is. I am getting it for the Vita. I reckon it'll look really good on the Vita, and I've always said that the Vita does 2D really well. It does the 2D better than even the PS3, and yeah, I think it's going to play really well on the Vita. Aero, you going to play Cosmic Star Heroine when it comes out?
Well, you talked about this title, I would say, when you appeared on AGP a while ago, and I had never heard of this title before. And when you were talking about this, it just hit all the right buttons for me. And this being a PlayStation Vita indie title, I am definitely going to pick it up on handheld. I'm very excited for it. Yes, this looks like a very interesting JRPG, and honestly, I've never really played a indie Japanese RPG before. So I'm interested in this game, definitely.
Yeah, it's so funny to emphasis on Japanese RPG when it's actually made in America.
Yeah.
But we all know why it's named that. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a nice way to end the year. But yeah, Cosmic Star Heroine. I hope you guys go out and get it.
Okay. Well, to counter that, there is another interesting indie JRPG that I've myself been following. It was not a Kickstarter, but basically, and I hope there's going to be no legal implications, but there is this team working on a fan game called Mother 4. So this is a continuation in the Earthbound series, of which I'm a huge fan. I absolutely love Earthbound, Mother 2, and Mother 3. And they are working on it. They said it was going to be released in winter 2014, early 2015. And it looks really, really similar to the Earthbound games. It has that very charming, colorful visuals. They showed some of the main characters in the game, which had very nice designs. They shared some music so far, which sounds really cool as well. And yeah, hopefully Nintendo will not go crazy with legal cease and desist stuff. But it looks like a very interesting game, and it's going to be PC only because this is a fan game without any backing. But hopefully they'll able to release it this winter. And for Earthbound and Mother fans, you might not have heard about this, but it's in development. It might be a horrible bust because it's a fan game, but it might also be a very sweet and nice return to this wonderful world that was created by the Mother developers. And it might be a very interesting game. So I've definitely put that on my radar, like Cosmic Star Heroine. So yeah, Greg, I know you're not the biggest Earthbound fan, but did you know about this game?
No, you just introduced it to me.
Okay.
That was way off my radar, but I've always known you've been a huge fan of the Mother series, so you of all people would know about it first beyond everyone else. So, no, really cool for you, man. I'm glad that you'd be able to play, even though it's an unofficial sequel, it's official from the heart. So,
yeah,
you know, and Mother fans are just so insanely passionate. The fan base is really, has one of the biggest fan sites on the internet. And yeah, man, hopefully, like you said, it won't have many legal implications. Could you imagine if they pulled a Capcom like they did with Mega Man X Street Fighter and made it available like on the eShop? That'd be crazy.
Wow. Oh, if the game is, that would be fantastic if Nintendo actually backed this and said, hey, we are so surprised by your quality of your game, even though I haven't seen any real gameplay yet, but that would be fantastic to get like an official seal of approval and to do like a Inspire thing. That would be great. Yeah, that would really be awesome. But let's wait for the game release first. Hopefully, it will be a lot of fun to play, and it's very interesting to see that there's a lot of these indie game developers that are just so well into Japanese RPGs, and even though they are not based in Japan, they try their hand at creating one that from other games that have inspired them, can come up with these very fresh and new ideas, or are so nostalgic towards other series, that just are really fun to play. So even though I haven't played some of these myself, I'll definitely going to keep my eye on it for the future. And even though personally I am not very happy with Kickstarter, because it takes a long time for these games to be delivered, and sometimes these projects fail, and there's a lot of bad stuff about it nowadays. But it's great to see that there's this outlet for indie gaming that has really grown over the last couple of years, and is now being supported by all the major hardwares. Like Sony is really putting a lot of effort into indie games, and the same can be said about Japanese RPGs. One of these sort of side-fused action JRPG that I did play was Dust: An Elysian Tale on the Xbox 360, and that is now being ported to PS4 as well. And that was a really really fun game, kind of like an Odin Sphere or Dragon's Crown. And it's great to see that there's more love for JRPGs than just what is being developed by Japanese game developers.
Yeah, absolutely, and I take an interest in some, which is really surprising that Mother 4 passed me by, but there is a lot of RPGs, a lot of great ideas that are either backed, self-backed, or they do rely on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I keep forgetting the name of this game. There is a RPG coming out soon that will teach you Japanese, and it has it has a turn-based battle system, and the art style is really edgy. What do you call it? Not film noir, but that black and white sort of. Yeah.
Okay. I think I've heard about this title before. It's I've seen this Kickstarter. I believe it happened a while ago, and especially learning Japanese. That is something that I want to do. I just looked it up on Google, and it's called Koei. So
Koei.
Sounds interesting.
I think what I read is you use the different forms of kanji that you have to learn in battle, and I keep forgetting how you use them, but it makes it fun. And they've created sort of the developer of the game created various districts of Tokyo. I think one of the backing goals was to make his version of Akihabara, which is pretty cool, and that always attracts a lot of people. But it was a really cool, interesting little idea that they said one of the goals was to put it on Vita, and it's like, hey, that's something I definitely play on my Vita. So hopefully, I don't know if it's finished, if they've finished the backing yet for that game. I haven't checked. I think they have. It's been a long time since I've.
No, they have. They have. It's funded twice over, so they're working very hard on the development, and it's still being developed actively, and it looks very interesting. So check out Koei. It's on Kickstarter. Seems very interesting, especially for us poor non-Japanese readers and speakers that want to be able to play games like Second Chapter.
Or the entire Kiseki series.
Zero no Kiseki. Kiseki.
Wonderful. Zero no Kiseki. Wonderful, wonderful game. I want to see it fan translated before I leave this earth.
It'll happen. I have faith. All right. Let's see. It is time to move on to TGS news again. And this was not announced at TGS, but a little before it with a Nintendo Direct. It was a new system. I'm calling it a new system. It's the new 3DS. And for this new 3DS, they showed a demo that Xenoblade Chronicles is being ported to this new 3DS, which for me personally, I'm very hyped for it, because Xenoblade Chronicles is a game that I put about 20 hours in. I've never finished it on the Wii, and I just prefer handheld gaming. It makes my life a lot more easier, and this is kind of a system seller for me to actually sit down and pick up a new 3DS or new 3DS XL, and then finally play Xenoblade Chronicles to the end until we actually get Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U.
This was a very big surprise. I had to deal with a lot of crap over. I mean, this was one of the most controversial pieces of news this year because the thing is this version of Xenoblade Chronicles will only work on the new 3DS, meaning existing 3DS owners won't be able to play it, and you can imagine the outcry that caused. Am I mad? No. Do you want to know why? I have arguments of this all the time. I actually think the first year 3DS model is easily one of the worst handhelds ever made. Mine is actually broken, and it's the only handheld I've ever owned that has broke. And you want to know the sad thing about it is? I've only beaten 3 games for the system. And I've played like various other games but haven't finished them. And the thumb pad, that circle pad, slide pad, it is the worst. It is the worst in the industry ever, and I hate it. I know I have to glue it, and I'm hearing reports of people destroying theirs playing the new Super Smash Bros. For 3DS. It is a terrible, terrible stick, and I hope that they redesign it for the new 3DS and make it more sturdy, and okay, the good part of this news is I have had so many plans to replace this damn thing, and I thought I was going to get a 2DS eventually, or might get a 3DS XL. But for them to come out and give me this new 3DS, it's kind of like saying, "Here's your replacement, Greg," and I says, "Thank you, Nintendo. I will accept it." So I will definitely get the new 3DS, and Xenoblade Chronicles, man, it is my favorite game of the Wii. I'm actually compiling a list of my favorite RPGs of last generation. It's high. It's high, if not, it's possibly going to be the highest on there. So I absolutely love Xenoblade. I'm so happy that other people have this other chance to play it again, and it is worth buying the new 3DS for. Take my word for it. You'll love it.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Just very quickly, Eric also briefly mentioned Xenoblade Chronicles X. Even though there hasn't been any really major news ever since E3, to finally see the game in action, it was marvelous. I saw the Nintendo treehouses. I'm really gearing up to play the game. It actually is the reason I bought a Nintendo Wii this year. There are other reasons like Hyrule Warriors and Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, but ultimately, long-term wise, it's for Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I'm really looking forward to playing it when it happens, and I'm very optimistic that it will receive a 2015 release.
Yeah, I'm on the one hand, I really want to finish Xenoblade Chronicles first, but my Wii U is sitting here, and Xenoblade Chronicles X, I am very hyped, and I think it will have a late 2015 release worldwide, and I hope it will sell a lot of units for the Wii U, because it looks really great. From what I've seen so far, fantastic.
Alrighty. Now, me and Arrow is going to do something a bit fun, and I know a lot of people are probably going to scream, but this is an RPG podcast, damn it! Well, sometimes you got to take a little break, and you got to talk about things you truly love. And outside of RPGs, Arrow and I have this mutual fondness for this one series, and I will probably go out on a limb to say that the game in this series that they showed at TGS was the best game shown at TGS. It was also the best game shown at E3 for that same reason. We're talking about Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't wait. This is like one of my most anticipated games of Ground Zero set me up, and then the preview so far, and I need this game.
People always laugh when I tell them that Ground Zero is my favorite game of 2014 so far, and it's pretty much a demo.
Oh yeah, well, I wouldn't say it's my favorite game, but I really enjoyed it. Like there's a lot of feedback on it, like it was too expensive. But hey, I played Ground Zeroes for at least 12 to 15 hours. Did all the side missions. I had a lot of fun with it. Not too happy with the story. It was a little bit on the weak side, but it got me very excited for the Phantom Pain. And since I've played it, there's E3, Gamescom, and now there is also TGS, which showed a lot of great, exciting stuff that you can do in the full Phantom Pain experience. And I am beyond hyped. And the only sad thing about this all was there was no release date. However, there's one right now, right?
There's a release window.
A window.
They basically are very adamant about that it's going to be a 2015 release. They just don't know when. And hopefully, from what I've seen, I think they've definitely got the Fox engine done. They've got it working. They've got it running. They've developed a hell of a lot of environments for the game. Yeah, it's going to be coming out next year. One thing that took me for 6, though, is when you said that Ground Zero story was weak, because I fucking loved it.
The thing is, I was not too fond of Peace Walker. I enjoyed the game, but I played that in one massive setting, like on 2 days or something like that, and I kind of lost the story a little bit. And to see it being a direct continuation of Peace Walker, which is Ground Zeroes, I was a little bit lost in some of the finer details of the plot, like I usually get around really well with Metal Gear Solid's universe, but I just have to replay it. Once it comes out, I'll probably replay Peace Walker, then go into Ground Zeroes, all to anticipate the release of Phantom Pain.
Yeah, and I watched as much as I could of the Phantom Pain. Like, they introduced the buddy system, which I think it's going to be a little more centric than having your squad like you did in Peace Walker. I reckon there'll be squad-based combat as well, but there's going to be more sneaking missions that probably require just 2 people. One of the characters that's become sort of the poster model for the Phantom Pain, which is Quiet. You finally got to see her in real time, and I like the fact that she provided Snake with backup. Sorry, I should say Big Boss with backup. Yeah. And even though he is the original Snake, people. Anyway, I liked the gameplay. I liked the fact that you can get her to snipe her marks as well. I like the fact that it was very tactical, like you would focus in on enemy, she would have her rifle ready, and then Snake would also view, and you can sort of see sort of like this strategy brewing. What do you do? Do you take out this enemy? Do you want to go around and recruit with the Fulton system? It's pretty awesome. I do like the fact that the Snake has dummy discs where he basically throws this disc and a inflated version of Big Boss appears and can distract the enemy. You can go behind and then rob him or recruit him. Awesome stuff. The one thing that actually made me just my jaw drop at what the Fox engine can do is one of the trailers, I think, shows an explosion or like this sort of natural sort of disaster happening. I think it was an explosion. And when it happened, these animals just came out of nowhere running for their dear lives at once. And I basically sat there and I basically just took that all in. And I said to myself, that is the most realistic thing I've seen in gaming, and the Fox engine has really set an industry standard for this generation, and it's just such a beautiful game to look at, you know, and just it's so believable. It's the most believable game you'll ever see in your life, and just all the things that Big Boss can do, like you see all him climbing any wall he can get his hands on. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, so much to that was shown that was just fantastic. One thing that Kojima brought out of the left field that just got everyone, even the most coldest of people, to take an interest in the Phantom Pain was that one of the optional parts of the game is that you actually come across this wolf puppy that has only one eye, and you can choose to Fulton this puppy to Mother Base, and if you do, you're treated to this lovely cutscene where you see this puppy is very grateful. He's licking Big Boss's face, and they decide to keep him, and it's just awesome because this dog doesn't have the same eye that Big Boss doesn't, so you can sort of see the two relating very quickly. But you see this event happen, and there's a period of time that goes past, and then you see the dog, which is named DD after Diamond Dogs, grow up, and he's become a full-size wolf, he or she, I don't know if it's a him or her, but anyway, basically he, like Quiet, is a buddy character that you can take on missions. And when you see this dog fully grown with an eye patch, it makes the Call of Duty dog look sad in comparison. Just the coolest dog I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that was a very, very welcoming surprise, and it just shows that the Phantom Pain is going to be filled with a lot of great content and side stuff that were used in these Metal Gear Solid games. And yeah, the graphics looks fantastic. If it's been 6 years now since the release of Metal Gear Solid 4, 2008, so they've worked all these years on getting the current gen Fox engine built. I've already, even though I'm not a big fan of the series, but I've played through the PT teaser for Silent Hill, and that was done with Fox Engine as well, and that looks absolutely gorgeous. It felt so lifelike, and was one of the most scariest experiences that I have, because it looks so realistic and was random as fuck. But yeah, the Fox Engine and the Phantom Pain are, I would say the Phantom Pain right now is my second most anticipated game. I really, really, really want to play it.
Everyone's gonna know what my number one game is, but yeah, it's sitting there on number two, most of the way games. I can't wait to play it. One thing I want to talk to you with, and I think this is a nice little conversation to have to theorize. The biggest strength I reckon that this game's going to have is Mother Base, and it is going to be the ultimate progression of the system that's established in Portable Ops and then carried over to Peace Walker with like the soldier recruitment from Portable Ops, and then you had light management with Mother Base in Peace Walker. But for the extent that Kojima's going to, I think the management of Mother Base is going to be a game within itself. I mean, if recruiting DD is an optional content. Can you imagine how much so-called optional content will be in the game to bring life to Mother Base? And you can walk around Mother Base in real time. You'll probably be able to set up the different structures of Mother Base. I made this joke a couple of weeks back during the Suikoden Day celebration. Wouldn't it be cool to have the Suikoden headquarters theme playing around Mother Base?
Oh, that'd just be fantastic.
That would be awesome, and it does give off that Suikoden headquarter vibe when I look at Phantom Pain's Mother Base. And I would love Konami just to, put as much content to the point where you do organize it like you would a normal army, and make this the definitive game that basically is the precursor to the Metal Gear series. Because my biggest wish was, people thought that Peace Walker was going to be the last big boss game, and then it would lead this gap all the way to the Metal Gear games. And I said to myself, no, let there be one more big game in the 80s. And I said this well before Phantom Pain was announced. And when they did announce it, is everything that I wanted. It is my wish come true. You just need to put Grey Fox in it, Kojima.
Oh yeah. Now there's actually one thing that I really want to see with the Mother Base, and that is I wanted to have this area, which is just like this grass patch, and then all the sheep that I recruit through the Fulton recovery system, I want them to appear there, and I'm going to raise a army of killer kamikaze sheep. That's what I want.
Awesome. I'd be awesome if you could. I don't know why you want to Fulton birds, but I'm actually a bird lover by nature. Where I actually live now, there's not much to do, but I now live in an area where I can see five times more types of birds than I could before. And it'd be awesome. Like Aero did, he's gonna have his kamikaze sheep. I want my bomb dropping birds.
Yeah, when they showed that in one of the I believe the Gamescom trailer where you can actually full-time recover a sheep, I was like, man, this is going to be crazy.
They showed you could Fulton cover a horse, and I'm like, that's my second choice. A group of light horsemen, a Diamond Dogs cavalry.
This is I really hope that you can do these types of things and it adds in, but I'm getting to the point right now where I don't really want to watch a lot of the trailers anymore, so not to spoil my experience and know too much about it. So I'm kind of getting into that phase where I'm like, yeah, all right, new trailer, should I watch it? Maybe, maybe not. But I am very, very excited for this game, and yes, it's if you want these massive experiences with so much content and graphics, it's just going to take a longer time, and I can definitely wait. I already got Ground Zeroes as a great teaser, and I can wait for the Phantom Pain, and I trust Kojima Productions that it's going to be a fantastic game, and probably is going to be ending up like one of my game of the years once it finally does release.
Or the big tag for this game, everyone calling it, is game for forever.
No, game for forever. Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be the case. I am very excited for this, and even though it's not a Japanese RPG, I am very very excited for it.
Yeah, I'm one of the biggest Kojima fans, at least in Australia, and I absolutely adore the Metal Gear series. And I knew that I was gonna be counting down the days till the release. So hopefully we'll get a solid release date sometime in the future.
Pun intended. All right, I think it's time to go back to the actual wonderful news of Japanese RPGs, and let's briefly talk about this series that has gotten quite the popularity over the, I would say, last couple of years. I'm invested in this series, but for the last couple of releases, I've been kind of lagging behind, and I've not been playing the duology, which comprise of Tales of Xillia 1 and 2. So we're talking about the Tales series here. And we all, of course, knew that Tales of Hearts R is coming out on the PlayStation Vita in English in December, which is definitely something that I look forward to because it's akin to this more traditional Tales series, opposed to the more newer epic 3D worlds. But that's Tales of Hearts R. But the big news announced at TGS is that Tales of Zestiria is going to be coming out on PlayStation 3, early release in Japan, I believe January, and then unprecedentedly the fastest ever localization of a Tales game. It is going to come out in summer 2015 in the West. And it is only for PlayStation 3, even though we now have the PlayStation 4 already, unlike another game that we'll talk about soon that is coming out for both systems. I am very excited to see what Tales of Zestiria is going to bring. I have not seen anything on characters or gameplay. I have quite a number of Tales games to play, like I mentioned, Xillia 1, 2, Hearts R, and maybe replay Symphonia Chronicles. But Tales of Zestiria, it is great to see that the PlayStation 3 is still getting support, and I know that a lot of people look forward to this game.
I am surrounded. A lot of friends of mine in the community absolutely worship the series like a religion. It is. It's insane how popular the Tales series has become. I am the black sheep in that regard because there's a lot of Tales games I don't like. And I nearly wrote the series off as a failure. But I've completely finished Tales of Graces F, and I would go as far as say that's probably one of the best RPGs on the PlayStation 3, if not my top 5. And it made me rethink, saying, hey, maybe the new Tales games offers what I really like. So I recently been playing Tales of Exillia a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really enjoying my time with it. It's sort of spun my opinion of Tales a little bit more positively. From what I've seen of Tales of Zestiria, it looks amazing. There's a lot of things that have changed. Like, it's more open than any other Tales game. It does that open world that Xenoblade provided as well. It looks really awesome. The character designs are pretty cool. There's a nice little feature in battle where you merge with certain characters called the Fusionic Chain Linear Motion Battle System, and two characters will merge together to create this really powerful being with a whole set of moves and just completely rock the battlefield. One thing is they've brought back the A arts that you know from Tales of Grace's F. They've also brought back discoveries from Tales of Grace's F, where you discover something and then a skit will follow afterwards. So if you're a big fan of Tales of Grace's F, it seems they take a lot from the game and put it in Zestiria. One thing I really like about it is it's more traditional, sort of medieval-esque fantasy, and I think it, in my opinion, looks a little bit more appealing than most other Tales games. The combat system, for the most part, hasn't changed. The fact that you don't have a transition into like this small little battlefield like you do in most JRPGs, you fight on the same area that you are walking in, which is pretty cool. I like that. So, really interesting choices. I would go as far as to say it's probably my most anticipated Tales game. And I can tell you this, I've never said that before in my life. So
Okay.
I'm definitely going to get it when it comes out.
All right, yeah, I'm definitely picking them up, especially the collector's editions. Hopefully, this winter period, I can finally crack down on some Cilia 1 and 2 and get those done because they have been in my backlog now for a while, especially Cilia. I think it's the longest game. But yeah,
I will
more
very
tales.
quickly I will very quickly say, just to give some more info, the game is coming in January in Japan, and it is confirmed, as I think Eric said before, for North America and Europe around summer next year. So that's awesome. But the other thing they actually announced today, because I was actually there at the Tales stream, is that in Japan there is going to be a anime OVA supplement that is going to be airing on New Year's Eve of all times
Hmm,
for the game. So
okay.
people will be able to watch the anime on New Year's Eve and then get the game roughly a couple of weeks later.
Kind of like
So
a teaser to set it up. That's nice.
I I think it's going to be exactly what they did with Tales of Vesperia, even though that was done afterwards. They actually have a movie called First Strike
Yep.
that sets up the events of Tales of Vesperia. So I reckon it'll be sort of in the same vein as that.
Okay. That was nice. I liked for the Tales of Vesperia First Strike. Vesperia is still, together with Grace's F and Abyss, my three favorite Tales games. So to see that Zestiria has a lot of things from Grace's F makes me very happy. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. And then from there on out, we'll see what happens with Tales on PlayStation 4 or ports later on. But it's great to see that Bandai Namco is going strong with a lot of their games.
It's really interesting to see them become a RPG company. I mean, we know back in the day that they were a company of all sorts. They'd be releasing games like fighters like Tekken and the Soul series, and light gun games like Time Crisis and various other, platforming games like Klonoa, and they've tried in the last couple of years to really hammer these real, very visual heavy action adventure games that sadly didn't find an audience. Games like Margin, the Forsaken Kingdom, and even Enslaved. I mean, Enslaved, I heard, did well, but not as well as they thought they would intended. And I think Namco ultimately felt the pinch, so they had to rethink their strategy, and they were dealing with a lot of hardcore Tales fans that just wanted Tales. So they decided, you know what, let's take a chance on Grace's F, let's see how it does, and it did really well. And from there, we've seen releases from them like Ni no Kuni, other Tales games, and recently they did the Sword Art Online release, but that has been met with mixed results, I shall say. But yeah, I really hope they continue this love of JRPGs and give us a bit more. And can I take this time to do a little campaigning error?
Sure, sure.
Speaking of or Bandai Namco and JRPGs, the creator of Tekken has given us an ultimatum. If we can get as many people supporting this idea as possible, they will consider a Xenosaga HD collection. I've been meaning to make a video for my YouTube channel, but I will take the time out in this wonderful recording to say, people, if you want a Xenosaga HD collection, let them know over at Bandai Namco, and they will consider it.
That is really great news because I've had a lot of new people talk about Xenosaga and the fact that they love it. I've played through Xenogears. It's one of my favorite RPGs. Xenoblade is another great RPG that I've yet to finish, but it's a great one. But Xenosaga is a series that I've completely missed out on. I am not really feeling to bust out the PlayStation 2, locate these games. But a Xenosaga HD collection, I maybe for Vita, but I just love handhelds. But I care. I don't care. PlayStation 3 or 4 is fine. I would definitely be interested in that, to be able to play this and to see what so many people love about them. Hopefully to do some streamlining of the gameplay, because I heard that the games are a little bit slow paced and a lot of grind heavy. Maybe they can speed it up, but I've already backed a lot of these surveys and petitions, so I'm very excited for this. Definitely go out and support the Xenosaga HD collection petitions out there, people.
Especially if you come from the power regions like ourselves, because we
Yeah.
never got the entire series. We got Xenosaga 2, and that's considered to be the least of the three, and Xenosaga 3 is considered to be one of the best RPGs on the PS2. So I wanna play them together on one disc, and it was just so strange of Katsuhiro Harada, who is the producer of the Tekken series, to come out left field and just say, "Hey, you give us the numbers, we'll consider it." And it's just like, it's given the fan base the opportunity it's always looked for. I have had this strange appeal for Xenosaga. I've only played half of the second game, and it had contained a movie disc of the first game, which I watched and really loved, but made me want to play the game more than watch it again. There's so many reasons to love it, and even more so because I have been Xenoblade and has become a fan of Tatsuya Takahashi and Monolith Soft. Then I went to play Xenogears and absolutely love Xenogears, despite the misfortune of the second disc.
Yeah.
But I definitely always wanted to play and beat Xenosaga. So, guys, if you love the series or if you have an interest, go out there, let them know you want it, and it might become a reality. That would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely do that. All right, does that wrap up the Bandai Namco news?
Yes, they will very quickly, and it's very hard to get too excited. I love Tales, but just more so the mainline games. They have this strategy RPG coming for the 3DS called Tales of the World, Reunitia, and it is basically a fan service crossover strategy RPG where you play as various characters from the Tales series. They have a ton of crossover games for the Tales series, ranging from Tales of Versus, which is sort of like a light Smash Brothers clone, to Tales of Twin Brave, which is a Dynasty Warriors clone. Like I said before, me and Ero said we're interested in the Tales series, but we're not hardcore devouts yet. So games like this, is not on our radar just yet.
Yeah, I've played a few of the Tales spin-offs. They're very hit and miss. Tales Versus, for instance, was nice, but there's Tales of Radiant Mythology and some that haven't even come over outside of Japan. So I don't think we'll get this game in the West. But yeah, it's good for the hardcore Tales fans to be able to interact with, because the Tales games, they all have their own main cast, kind of like Final Fantasy, except for direct sequels. So now to see them interact with each other is very exciting. There is this game coming out for one of my favorite series that's going to be crossing over two games, which I'm very excited for. So I can guess that if you're a big Tales fan, that's only similar. So yeah, it's good to see that these types of game come out. I would not bet on a localization though, but you never know.
I think ultimately, if it came to a decision between Zestiria and this, everyone's definitely going to pick Zestiria. No.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I think it's time to move on to Sega.
Who are they?
Well, it's this company that basically saved one of my favorite game companies. So they are good in my book.
I got a really nice story before we go into the Sega stuff. I've actually had a major reconciliation with Sega ever since the really bad Shining Force incident of 2012, I think it was. it left a lot of people very bitter towards Sega. A lot of people betrayed and all that jazz. And I actually didn't support Sega for two more years. But I actually was not really happy about that because I was a Sega kid growing up. My first 7 years of gaming was on Sega consoles, and I have a lot of fond memories of playing different RPGs made from Sega. And I decided in 2014, when I was planning on doing a series that was talking about my memoirs, my gaming memoirs, I had all this fond memories of playing all these Sega games come back to me and how happy it made me. So what I did in the start of 2014 is I went back and played all these Sega games and sort of re-experienced this joy I had as a child. And one of the things I did is I played Phantasy Star again for like the first time in ages. I think it must have been like my 7th time that I've played the game. Just really enjoyed the game. It just made me realize how much I do love Sega and how much they do mean to me. So I am definitely going to be giving them more support than I have before. And with that, I'm going to fire off all the stuff that they talked about TGS. First up is a series that they have been neglecting in the West that everyone desires. And of course, that is Yakuza Zero, which is a prequel set in 1988. It takes place in two cities in Japan. It takes place in the series favorite, Kamurocho in Tokyo. And it also takes place in Sutombori in Osaka. And basically in this game, you take control of two characters, one being the main character of the Yakuza series, Kazuma Kiryu, and the other character you take control of is his greatest rival / ally, Goro Majima. And Majima is a fan favorite in the series, and a lot of people always wanted to play as him. He was a playable character into Dead Souls, but we won't talk about Dead Souls here. Anyways, I saw the trailer and I was absolutely blown away. I've always said that Yakuza is one of the most visually fantastic series, just one of the most beautiful games to look at, and they keep even I would say they just keep at it. They keep making these games look even better and better and better. And 1998 for this series just looks beautiful. They've gone to fantastic intricate detail. Like one of the things with Kamurocho is if you've been to Japan, you know that the Sega Club is very iconic. It's got that Club Sega with like the red background and all that, but it didn't always look like that. It had another look back in the 1980s, and what they've done is they've pulled out old pictures of how it looked in the 80s, and they pretty much created it in that same image. And it's just applied all this fine details to the fashion, to how everything looks. It looks truly tremendous. The combat system is pretty much the same, but seeing Kazuma sort of beat down in the streets of Kamurocho for the first time ever in his life, because you have to remember this is he's young, he's in his early 20s, is pretty awesome. You do see some familiar moves in him developing his moveset from what I've seen. Playing as Majima, however, is completely different. He is a sadist in everything he does. He has fun with the people he beats up, and it's almost cringing to watch him do it. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. There is a lot of new mini games that they have announced that are awesome. For anyone who might have an interest in it, do you remember those old specialized stores where they have the racetracks, the dedicated racetracks with the remote control cars? They have that, which is pretty surprising. If I recall correctly, I think it was a very big popular thing to do in the 80s, so I can understand that. One of the other things is when you go into Club Sega, you can actually play old 80 arcade games like Space Harrier and Fantasy Zone and Super Hang-On, which is very awesome, adds another element of nostalgia that fans of Shenmue will simply would love as well, since the game also did that as well. Now, I said before with the Shinra technology, so that was one of the biggest belly laughs that I've had at TGS. Here's the second one. One of the game mechanics that you can do in Yakuza Zero that made me fall over laughing is you can actually throw piles of money at people. I'm not making that up. There's a terminology we like to call making it rain, and you can make it rain in Yakuza Zero.
Okay, that's crazy.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I know that it'll probably take away the money you have, which is going to suck because you'll need that for items and taking hostesses on dates and all that jazz. But man, just to do that for the sake of doing it would be awesome. And I think gameplay-wise, it creates a distraction. Say if you're getting chased and there's a group of people, you throw some money at them and they go crazy. So... yeah, I really like it. And it's supposed to be the theme. It says in the trailer, money, women, power. And it's like, that's the theme of the game. And then I said, that's the theme of the 80s in most movies set in the 80s. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really cool to see that they're going that route. The game is awesome. Not getting my hopes up too horribly high because the chance of this coming to the West is very low unless Atlas USA steps in to bring back the series, and we don't know what's happening there because they're probably too busy gearing up for an awesome group of games that Era will be talking about in a few minutes. But yeah, really excited. I think I'll definitely import it when I get the chance. Now, this wouldn't be me sounding off Sega without talking about my favorite Sega franchise of all time. That's Phantasy Star. Very quickly, I attended the live stream of the Phantasy Star event. In a nutshell, they did a great deal of information about episode 3 of Phantasy Star Online 2. Fortunately, that has not been translated into an English article, so I can only go by what pictures they showed. They showed all the events they're going to be showing. They did show off a trailer for episode 3, which is really awesome. I like what they've done. Phantasy Star Online 2 is another narrative-centric Japanese online game, very much in the same vein as Final Fantasy XIV. I was really surprised when I watched a fan-subbed video of the story in Phantasy Star Online 2, and was really surprised because that's a series that's not really known for its story, but ever since PSO2, they've kind of taken strides to do better with the story department, and I really love that because, Phantasy Star is such a dear series to me. Now, besides Phantasy Star Online 2, they also have a game coming out exclusively for the Vita, and they're gearing this up to be probably one of the biggest exclusives for the Vita this year, and that is Phantasy Star Nova. This is a RPG that is co-produced by Tri-Ace. I think Tri-Ace is the main developers of the game, and it's really interesting to see them make another sci-fi RPG because they're well known for Star Ocean. And graphically wise, the game is beautiful and the character designs are very much what would take if you took Phantasy Star characters and Star Ocean characters and meld them together. They sort of give off that vibe. Very, very, very cool. I like the game. Takes place you're part of a intergalactic space crew, and basically your ship is damaged and you have to make an emergency landing on a unidentified planet. And this planet is habited by giant monsters, and you have to go out and basically fight these monsters, defeat them, and take their material. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, so this is going to be another sort of Monster Hunter collab game. Yes and no. With most of these collab games, you fight smaller enemies and then big enemies. Except in these trailers, there is no small enemies. There's only these giant behemoth enemies. And I actually said to myself, this isn't really so much a Monster Hunter clone as it's more a Shadow of the Colossus turned into an RPG type of game, because you'll be fighting body parts of all of these giant monsters. So this has me excited. It also has me concerned at the same time, because if these giant monsters is the only source of battle in the game, you would have to have a lot of them to keep the interest alive, and it'd be really hard to level grind if that's all you're doing. I'm guessing you would receive the experience points after you kill them. I don't know, but I hope they come out of nowhere and introduce another system to gain experience points. That just make me feel a lot better. But from what I've seen, it looks really interesting. The combat looks great because it's built off what they did with Phantasy Star Online 2. It is very fast paced and it's in your face. There is a lot of things that do make it a little bit jarring, like there's this system you do where you create these little force fields to walk on in order to get to higher places to attack a higher part of the monster. And that actually didn't come off as quite as well. It looked a bit chaotic when you do that. Hopefully that will be retuned to be a bit more effective when the game comes out in November. I think I will import it if I have the spare money, because Sega games at launch are very expensive, and this being a big exclusive, I reckon it'll cost a pretty penny. But as a Phantasy Star fan who wants to get back into collecting Phantasy Star games, I'll be definitely getting it. Is it going to get localized? Hard to say, because the last Phantasy Star game they localized was Portable 2, and that was met with I think it was enjoyed for the most part, I'll say that, but I don't think a lot of people bought the game, sadly. And right now they're in this big heated match with telling their fans that Phantasy Star Online 2 is coming to the West. Then it's not, then it is, then it's not, and it's taking its sweet ass time. And there's a lot of things alluding to it maybe getting released, but the problem with the development cycle is they're translating episode 1, and they've probably held back to also translate episode 2, and now episode 3 is coming out in Japan. So if they're waiting for all the episodes to be there, that's going to take a long time. So yeah, that's all the Phantasy Star news.
Awesome. Yeah, I've not been invested as you have in the Phantasy Star series, so especially the online stuff, it doesn't really interest me. But Phantasy Star Nova, if it gets a localization, I'm keeping it on my radar. It might be an interesting game for my Vita, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the irony is Monster Hunter was really inspired by the first Phantasy Star Online games, really. So it's interesting how this genre has worked in that favor, because it was, you know, Phantasy Star Online's more of an action RPG than Monster Hunter is. But anyways, my feelings towards online is the fact that I really enjoy them as games, but the early online games are void of any story. So in that regards, it becomes really hard to be invested. So, but anyways, yeah, looking forward to Nova. I'll definitely get it eventually. Lastly is a interesting new IP that they have announced. If one online game wasn't enough, they have announced a new online game called The World End Eclipse. And this is going to be a more traditional fantasy type MMO with dragons and knights and all that sort of jazz. The producer of the series is the same producer of the Valkyria Chronicles series, so that has my interest immediately. But the biggest thing as a Falcom fan is Katsumi Inami, who did the artwork for E7 and Zero no Kiseki, is doing the artwork for this game. So the characters will look really cool. We can at least say.
Awesome.
And he was also the artist for Star Ocean 4. So fortunately, there's not anything else I could talk about the game. They didn't show any sort of gameplay footage. They only showed like this introduction to the world trailer where it showed the artwork and showed some voice acting, and then facing off against this dragon. Looks pretty cool. It's going to be released on the same platforms PSO2 is. It's going to be PC, iOS, and Vita. And it's another game that I don't think will be localized, but hey, you never know.
Yeah, definitely. No. All right, that's interesting. It sounds interesting to hear that these collaborations are still taking place, and people cross companies are doing artwork and stuff. So yeah, that's nice.
And that is it for Sega. But it's not it for one of Sega's newly acquired subsidiaries that need no introduction, and we're going to leave it to probably one of the biggest fans of this company to deliver the news, and that is none other than Atlus, ladies and gentlemen. So take it away, Aero.
All right, thanks. So yeah, Atlus, I am extremely excited for their games. They are very centric, of course, mostly on the Persona series nowadays, with a lot of Persona games gearing up, already announced, and soon to be released is the sequel to Persona 4 Arena, which is Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. It's kind of like this 1.5/sequel to the fighting game, which is nice. I'm going to be importing my copy from North America at the end of September. Yeah, I enjoyed the first one, but hey, it's a fighting game spin-off. Then there's also Persona Q coming out in November, and I am very excited for this because it is a crossover game between the characters of Persona 3 and Persona 4, and it's going to be a traditional first-person dungeon crawler like the other Atlas series, Etrian Odyssey, which I'm a huge fan as well. And they basically it's a mix between Etrian Odyssey and Persona with the two casts, and it looks great so far. I played a very little bit of the Japanese release that I imported, and this is definitely one of my most highly anticipated games for 2014. It's coming out at the end of November, and pretty much my entire December will be spent on playing Persona Q. This is definitely what gets me very excited to see this crossover, and yeah, very hyped. So Greg, are you have you played a lot of Etrian Odyssey, and are you interested in Persona Q?
I've actually played a good deal of the very first Etrian Odyssey. It felt like forever, and the fact that it took away a timer, it didn't give you any time, any indication of how long you've been playing the game for. But I didn't beat that, and I did play the demo of Etrian Odyssey 4, and I really loved that demo. So combat-wise, yeah, I really liked it, and I've always known that Persona Q basically borrows a lot from the Etrian Odyssey series, and being a big fan of both Persona 3 and Persona 4, it's a given I'm going to play Persona Q. I was really worried with how the art style was, with it making them more chibi and moe, because I like chibi stuff in very small doses, but I kind of accepted it for the Q, and I think that's pretty cool. It's funny, it's coming out in November, right?
Yeah, end of November.
That's when Nova comes out, exact same week. So yeah, do I play a Japanese Phantasy Star game, or do I play a translated Persona game? They're both of my top 10 favorite RPG series.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I think it's going to be Q, because I'll be able to finally enjoy it, and I've been more enjoying games on my 3DS. As much as I went on to a rant how much I don't like my model 3DS, that doesn't mean I don't like 3DS games. Especially the 3DS games that come out recently are of very high quality, and games like Persona Q keep that reason why, and I'm looking forward to it. If anything, just to play another Persona game with my favorite characters. So yeah. As for the Ultramax, I'm actually not as much looking forward to it as everyone else, because I actually finally beat the first arena this year, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. I thought the story was really interesting for a fighting game, but as a Persona game, it kind of felt like, it's weird to say this, a holiday special. You know, when you have like a long running series and then they might return with like this holiday special like a couple of years later. That's what it kind of feels like to me. And, like, the genuine article is Persona 4 and Persona 4 the Gold, and that's the game I love to death. But this, it's an okay offering to me. And I know that once I beat the game, it alluded to something awesome that might happen, and it sort of got me interested. But I think, like Arena, I bought it for dirt rock bottom cheap, and I think that's what I'm going to do for the Ultramax as well.
Yeah, sure. That's understandable. I was a little bit disappointed by the story from Persona 4 Arena as well, especially if you replay it with all characters. But yeah, pick it up for cheap, I would say. The story is completely revamped this time for Ultimax, with a lot of new characters in there, and it's going to be a continuation. So definitely check it out. And I'm besides Persona, I'm also a huge fan of Arc System Works, who does Blaze Blue. So this is why I'm pretty excited for Ultimax. But those are the upcoming games for 2014. Coming out in 2015, though, is a game that I am sure that Greg is very, very excited for. And that is, of course, Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
Oh, now this is where Ultramax becomes a little bit more appealing. um, it's no deep secret that my least favorite genre of all time is rhythm games. I like to think of myself some guy who does have a good sense of rhythm, but then when it comes to playing those games, it reminds me that not really. Like you're talking to the guy who nearly broke his PSP over a rhythm mini game in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. So yeah, this is something that as a Persona 4 fan, I would like to buy it and sort of just for my collection. I don't know if I would play it, but if I'm going to play a rhythm game from Dingo, I think this would be it. But I don't see myself binge playing it unless which I think they will come out of Story of Left Field saying this is another event in the Midnight Channel where instead of being each other senseless, you've got to dance your ass off and then probably face off against your shadow self, who knows the moves better than you do.
I see. I haven't seen a lot on the story, but
No, this is just a
yeah.
theory. It's just a
No, I
theory.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very big on rhythm games, and recently really been invested in the Hatsune Miku series, which was originally developed by Dingo. So I'm very excited for this. I love the soundtrack. Similar to kind of say Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy, to see these soundtracks in a rhythm game makes me very excited, and it's going to be a Vita exclusive. The visuals look very nice, so yeah, if you're a fan of Persona and you're a fan of rhythm games, then I think Dancing All Night is on your list for sure. And if you're not really into rhythm games, just wait a while and maybe pick it up for cheap.
Definitely. I think it's also because the Vita exclusive is also makes it really appealing because I really want some more Vita games for my collection.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So before we get to the main attraction that is Atlas that they are offering, especially in the Persona side, let's talk about three of the other games that are coming out. Etrian Odyssey 2 Untold Knights of Fafnir has been announced. So this is going to be a remake for Etrian Odyssey 2, but this time they added in a completely new story mode with predetermined characters, for which I'm very excited. I have to be honest and say that Etrian Odyssey 1 Untold Millennium Girl is I have not yet played, but I've heard a lot of great things about it. And last year, Etrian Odyssey 4 for the 3DS Watch was one of my favorite games of the year. So I am very excited to see that they are continuing the Etrian Odyssey series, even though they quickly did a Persona Q sort of Etrian Odyssey spin-off. Now they're focusing on Untold again. I think it will be very safe to say that there will be an Etrian Odyssey 3 Untold later on as well. But yeah, not announced yet for localization, but Atlas USA is really, really good with localization. So Etrian Odyssey 2 Untold, it's coming out in November in Japan, and I'm expecting, maybe spring, early summer in the West for some more first-person dungeon crawler goodness.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people, including my own brother, that actually went out and got Millennium Girl and really enjoyed it. And I was just like, this seems like the definitive version of the first Etrian Odyssey game. Maybe I should just wait and get that instead. And it is out. It's just something I haven't tracked down yet. Maybe I should have another look and see if I can get a copy.
All right. Okay, so that's it on the Etrian Odyssey side. I would say yeah, if you count Shin Megami Tensei and Persona as one series, it's their second, biggest series. But it's not as well known as Shin Megami Tensei and of course Persona. But that's Etrian Odyssey. So next up announced is Devil Survivor 2 Break Record, which is a enhanced remake of the original Devil Survivor 2, which is the strategy RPG offerings in the Shin Megami Tensei series. It's going to be an enhanced remake with voice acting, added content after the game, and the first or at least the DS version of Devil Survivor 2 was a really great game. I really enjoyed it. Excellent story. Also like Devil Survivor 1. Really worth your time if you're big into strategy RPGs. They announced this game even before Sega took over Atlas, and it was quiet for a very long time. on the break record front. And now they came out of a left field at TGS and said, hey, no, it's coming out. We're going to be releasing it in January 2015 in Japan. And with Atlas USA being so spot on with actual translations, I figured this is going to be coming out somewhere April, May, June, at least in North America. And even NIS America and Atlas are working very close together to release these games more often in Europe. So I have high hopes for a worldwide release of Break Record, and I am very excited because there's also Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 1 Overclocked, the enhanced remake of the first game, which I haven't played yet. So with this release coming out, I can safely, boot up Overclocked and then replay both 1 and 2 Devil Survivors, which are definitely worth your time. Maybe you're very into Fire Emblem, a strategy RPG series. Definitely check out Devil Survivor 1 and 2. There are some great kind of post-apocalyptic, the world is going to end in the middle of Tokyo stories with some great characters. Absolutely great hybrid between turn-based with strategy RPG first, and then when you have an encounter, you actually do it turn-based wise with demons that you are well known with in Shin Megami Tensei. And it's going to be another great game for the 3DS. So very happy that they kind of broke the silence and they announced that it's actually coming out in 2015.
I think one of the reasons they did is because, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a Devil Survivor 2 anime, and I heard that was relatively popular. So maybe they wanted to cash in on this because they're having this this renaissance of Persona, or should say SMT anime series. I mean, it's crazy that Persona 4 didn't get one series, it's got two. Yeah. One based on the original, and now one based on the Golden remake, which is crazy. And then they've also got Devil Survivor 2 here, which is pretty cool. My issue isn't with the games themselves. I've seen trailers of the games that are awesome, but Aaron and I know the pain of getting these games localized in the PAL regions, and Overclocked did not do so well because of issues the game had. They had to patch it, and I've never been good with getting to a Wi-Fi point. I know my friends have told me to get a Wi-Fi modem or get a Wi-Fi hotspot, but I'm really bad with that, and I knew with a game like Overclocked, if I couldn't get it patched, I wouldn't be able to play it at all, so I just didn't bother to get it at all. And Ghostlight in general just had some really bad luck lately with the SMT series. They've kind of had to change hands in a way.
Yeah, their last game that they did in Europe and also Australia was the Devil Survivor 2 DS release, which was like at least more than a year later than the North American release. And very slowly, silently, NIS America, or actually NIS Europe, took over a lot of the Atlas localizations with Etrian Odyssey 4 and lots of other games. And kind of very slowly, Ghostlight was just pushed back. So even though they already did the Devil Survivor Overclocked as well as Devil Survivor 2 in Europe, I'm interested to see if Break Record is going to end up in Ghostlight's hand or in NIS Europe's hands. So for me personally, I am such a huge Atlas fan. Over the last 2 or 3 years, I've grown so attached to this company that I made it a goal to get a North American 3DS for Shin Megami Tensei 4. Lo and behold, the game came out summer 2013. It is still not out in Europe and Australia. And Shin Megami Tensei 4 was my game of the year of 2013. I absolutely love that game. And it's very heartbreaking to see that game is still not out in Europe. It's supposed to come out in October, digital only for €20, which is a nice price because this is definitely worth it. But yeah, the whole release of Shin Megami Tensei 4, it sucks. And with Persona Arena as well and all that crazy stuff, I know, and I have a 3DS from North America. I just import it. Same is happening with Persona Q. That's coming out a week later in Europe, so that's great. But I break records, no ID. Etrian Odyssey Untold, no ID. So I just get it on the North America 3DS, import it from this great store called Video Games Plus in Canada. They have some great Atlas stuff, always have the collector's editions. I know it's a little bit expensive to get another 3DS system, but for somebody who's as invested, I just go for it. And Greg is doing the same thing. He's so invested in Falcom. He just imports these games straight from Japan, even though some of these games will maybe never even be localized, like the Trails series, sadly. But this is what you do when you love a series so much. You just go the extra mile for it, and it makes you even more passionate about it.
And sad because SMT4 is probably one of the most appealing games of the mainline series. I mean, I like 1 and 2, and I liked what I played of Nocturne, but 4 really harkens to me. I have seriously thinking about considering importing my new 3DS so I can then play all the US releases that actually end up being cheaper than, way cheaper than the Australian prices. Yeah. And it's weird that you get games like I know Era's about to cringe at this name, but Code of Princess got released in the hard copy in America, but got outrageously put on eShop for twice the price. And I certainly haven't rushed out to get it, even though I'm a big fan of Guardian Heroes. But that's what you have to deal with, and it's kind of put me off to a bit. But if I do get my system from America, SMT4 is going to be definitely one of the first games I get for it.
Oh, definitely. It is indeed a very accessible accessible one. And it was really a great experience. The main story was not as strong as a Persona game, but just the gameplay, the progression, the demon fusing, everything. I really enjoyed it. I played it in like the first weeks when it came out, and after that, I saw all this stuff with Europe going on, and Nintendo of Europe, pretty messing up the release. It's really regrettable, but hopefully soon people in Europe can actually enjoy it, and we'll definitely check it out, because it does not take away that this is a fantastic game, and highly worth your time. So hopefully you and many of our listeners get in Europe and Australia will definitely check out Shin Megami Tensei 4. All right, that brings us to the final. No, actually, there's 2 more games. We are saving the big one for last. There's another game that I'll briefly mention, which sadly was completely AWOL at TGS. Nothing has been mentioned for a very long time. And basically, in 2013, Nintendo Direct, Nintendo gave this their first Nintendo Direct, and they announced so many great games. Xenoblade Chronicles X was announced there as just X. They announced so much more, and one of the games that they announced was Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. Nothing about it, just the game is coming, and since then we have heard absolutely nothing. It was supposed to be a Wii U title, and since then it has been silent. Nothing has happened in about 12 to 18 months. So I have no idea what's going to be happening with this game. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully someday, because Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem are 2 of my favorite series. So yeah, what's going on, Atlas?
It'd be interesting to see some theories, because remember when they had that bidding wars back then, when before Sega bought the company, a lot of people think, oh, maybe Nintendo will buy them out, and I was wondering if that was kind of like the leverage, saying, hey, if you come with us, we'll work on Shin Megami Tensei X Fire Emblem the most. Yeah. But I think Atlas, in the long run, Atlas made a better decision and more focused on the other games like Persona and all that. Hopefully they'll still be able to make this game eventually. Intelligence Systems, I think they're working on another game that's not Fire Emblem related. I keep forgetting the name of that game. But hopefully they'll get back to doing what they do best, because I love me some Fire Emblem. We've always joked that a lot of people's like, oh my god, a Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem game, this is going to be so awesome and so original. And I basically say to those people, awesome? Yes. Original? No. Because there is actually a game on the Super Famicom called Margin Tensei, and it is a complete knockoff of the old Fire Emblem games.
Yeah, I've not played them myself, but I know that they're very inspired. But yeah, just It's surprisingly that they hype up this game and then there's absolutely nothing about it, not even what genre, what type of style, but maybe it's still being in development and they just save it as the next big game after the really big game that is coming out at Atlas. So we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, absolutely. Arrow, I should say very quickly, we should
Yeah.
take a bet. What's going to come out first? The fan translations of Majin Tensei 1 and 2 or Shin Megami Tensei X Fire Emblem?
Well, it's interesting that you brought it up because speaking of fan translations, it recently come to my attention that last week we finally got a fan translation of Kyu-Yaku Megami Tensei 1 and 2, which is the Super Famicom remake of the original Megami Tensei, the really, really, really original Megami Tensei 1 and 2. So not even Shin Megami Tensei, just regular Megami Tensei. And they got bundled together in Kyu-Yaku Megami Tensei. That has finally been released as a fan translation, and it was one of the missing titles together with Shin Megami Tensei If, which is kind of in between 2 and 3, as this unavailable in English. Majin Tensei, I believe fan translations are in progress at Aeon Genesis, who's also doing Shin Megami Tensei If. So I would say yes, those fan translations will be released before Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. I hope not, though.
Pretty much. By the way, amazing news for Kuyaku Megami Tensei. I have been waiting a long time. One of the coolest things is I think it was my Atlas collecting that where me and Ero met on YouTube, and Kuyaku Megami Tensei was actually one of the last games I got for my small Atlas collection before I kind of called it quits. So I remember seeing the game. I was like, oh yeah, because I'm a big fan of 16-bit versions of 8-bit games. I play Dragon Quest 1 and 2 on the Super Famicom, and it's awesome. And I said to myself, I'll wait until I can play Kuyaku Megami Tensei instead of getting Megami Tensei 1 and 2 for the Famicom. When he gave me that news, it was a long time coming. I'm really, really happy it's happened. I will have to slot some time in before 2014 ends or the first couple of months of 2015 to finally play the beginnings of the Tensei series. I always have an interest in playing the original game. It took me ages to play the original Final Fantasy game, but it's something I always wanted to do. Whenever I get into an RPG series, I like to play the first game, which is kind of why I haven't played Earthbound, because I really want to beat Mother 1, because that really was the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I really look forward to playing this, and of course the original Megami Tensei 1 and 2 on Famicom. They have not received a fan translation as well, so yes, the tough part for me now is actually slotting it in because I had a lot of other games on my radar already that I'm playing right now. But I'm definitely going to sit down and play them over the course of hopefully the next 6 months. And yeah, I'm very excited for Kyu-Yaku Megami Tensei. So yeah, it's been going really well, especially with the surprise release of the official Atlas release of Shin Megami Tensei 1 on the iOS a half year ago. They, at least Atlas and as the origins of the series is going really strong as well. So I'm very happy to see that. As I mentioned before, this is now my favorite series, and I'm very happy to see all this great stuff being released and some very dedicated fans working on translations as well. I recently had some great translations, like Type 0 or Ace Attorney Investigations 2 come out as well. So always enjoy the fan translation crowd.
Absolutely, I can't wait to play it.
Definitely. All right, so to end this Atlas session, we have to talk about the most hyped game. When I mentioned The Phantom Pain is my second and most anticipated game, this is the first one. It was the first ever Shin Megami Tensei game that I played all the way back in 2009. I fell in love with the game. I fell in love with the series. The hype is there, the ports, the remakes. I've played them all. And now it is finally time to get cracking on a sequel. And that is, of course, Shin Megami Tensei Persona 5. Huge reveal, of course, months and months ago that they are working on it. But now in the Sony's pre-TGS conference, they showed a 90-second animated trailer for it, showcasing what's most likely going to be the main character, which I'm very hyped up for. The locale, it's taking place in this major urban city, looks very interesting to me. Nothing on gameplay, nothing on other characters yet. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But the major surprise here was the original Persona 5 was announced for PlayStation 3, but now it's actually going to be coming out simultaneously for both the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4, which made Persona 5 all the more interesting right there and then. I love, the fact that they're eagerly supporting the PlayStation 4 already, because Persona 4 was, kind of like the last big PlayStation 2 game, even though the PlayStation 3 was already about 2 years going strong. But to see this straight for PlayStation 4, this will open up hopefully a lot of great popularity. It seems that Persona 5 is going to be the first real big Japanese RPG for the PlayStation 4, because this game is coming out way before Final Fantasy 15, and I am extremely hyped for it. I'm most likely going to be importing like the limited editions from Japan, and hopefully within hopefully not more than 6 months after the Japanese release, we will see this at least in North America. PlayStation 4 is region free, so I can easily import it without any issue. And I'm just very amazed and hyped up for Persona 5. I have so much things that are anticipating it, things I would like to see, the routes that they can take, but I shouldn't get too overhyped and just see what Atlas is going to bring me. But Persona 5, I am beyond hyped for this. I really look forward to playing this game, and it's looking like it's going to be a summer 2015 release, maybe fall 2015 in the West. Just straight up hyped up, and they only did a reveal of like a 60-second teaser and a 90-second animated trailer, and the hype is just there, and I am beyond hyped for Persona 5, and maybe not as much, but I think Greg is very excited for this one as well, right?
Yeah, I out of all the Shin Megami Tensei properties, this is the definitive experience that I've been waiting for so long, and it's definitely one of my most anticipated games. I'm looking forward to. There's so many theories being thrown around about the theme of the game, which is the whole tagline of "You want emancipation, you are slave, you want emancipation," and people trying to figure out how it's going to go into the game, because if you don't know too much about Persona 3 and Persona 4, there's this overarching sort of element that causes the danger, like as fans will know with Persona 3, the whole man, I'm drawing a blank. I want to call it Tartarus, but what are they called? They call it the what hour? Was it?
The midnight hour. No,
was it just the mid? No, because Persona 4 is the midnight channel. That's what I was going to lead into.
The dark hour.
The dark hour. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm pretty bad with names as well. I played them, for 80 hours, and then I just draw blanks at names. I'm just that bad.
Well, I've only played Persona 3 once, and I've played Persona 4 numerous times. Yeah. So I could say the Mayonaka TV or Midnight Channel off the top of the hat, but I keep forgetting Persona 3's. But yeah, you have the Dark Hour in Persona 3, and you've got the Midnight Channel in Persona 4. I am really interested in what they're going to do for Persona 5 in this regard. There's a lot of theory saying, it's going to be like 1 and 2, and it's like, I don't think so. I think this, it might be a combination of everything. Who knows? Everything's been thrown about. The thing that did interest me is the fact the main character can see things no one else can see, and that has me interested with the blue fire and everything. So
definitely.
I wonder I wonder if he's got the ability to see into people's weaknesses or what sort of makes them unhappy. Who knows what it is? It's going to be very deep. It's going to be very thought-provoking. It's Persona.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, it's just this whole anticipation leading up to the release and what you can expect from it. And this is the type of game where if Atlas is going to announce like a major stream like they actually did last year around November, December, when they actually did get down, which was one of the most craziest streams that I've ever been to. You were there as well. It was absolutely ridiculous how they just trolled us, teased us, and then they thought it was ended, and then they actually all the way at the end we had to set through Persona Q and Persona Dancing All Night and Ultimax, which were all very exciting, but at the time we only wanted to see Persona 5. And then they gave that teaser, and this is the type of game where I'm going to be watching or staying up to watch streams of it, just to get more information out of it. This is just very, 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 very hyped up for it. And the good thing about this is there are so many great games like Persona Q, Arena Ultimax, Dancing All Night, that we can actually play before the actual release of the game to get to whet our appetites for Persona. And I think many of our listeners are fans of Persona. If you aren't yet, definitely check out either Persona 3 Portable on the PSP or a system seller, Persona 4 Golden on the Vita. Persona 4 Golden is it's one of my favorite games of all time, and it's one of the best enhanced remakes of my favorite games. Check it out to get hype for Persona 5, because PlayStation 4 or on the PlayStation 3 if you haven't moved to the current gen yet, get hype.
Get absolutely hype. Have a big smile like Jack Frost.
Definitely. And with that I would say Atlas is doing very well with their long-term planning. I really like what the company is doing. They have their main titles, they have their spin-offs, they have their other series that they're trying out. They are really becoming this main staple. They're extremely popular in Japan. They're doing very well with localizations, and I just like how the company is approaching it, what they're doing about it, and it's a very strong showing around this TGS era as well, together with Square and Kojima Productions. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm just done with gushing about this wonderful company. Let's move on to Greg's favorite one, and one of my personal favorites as well, which is of course the great and powerful Neon Falcom.
Yes. Neon Falcom, without a doubt, my Atlas, my favorite company of all time. And I gotta say, this TGS was definitely one of their best. Before I get into the main reason for why this is, I'm going to talk to you about a game that was shown at TGS and is coming out next Thursday. And of course, I'm talking about Legend of Heroes Sen no Kiseki 2, the latest in the Trail series. And the hype train for this is long since done its tracks, and it's about to make its final stop, of course. The game looks amazing. I've played a bit of the first game. It's a great continuation. Usually I get people really excited by watching the trailers. This was one of the only Falcom trailers I told people not to watch, because it has something that spoils the series. So do not watch that trailer.
I won't.
It's just crazy. I wasn't happy when I saw it. I was like, bullshit. But anyways, no, beautiful. The main theme of Sen no Kiseki 2 is really good. I kept playing it and over again one day because I thought it was really catchy. It was really heartfelt. JDK just does a wonderful job, and one of the reasons I'm looking forward to next week is not only will I be able to have the game, I'll be able to hear the soundtrack, and I always get excited for listening to the new JDK soundtrack. I will imagine that they will be reusing some tracks from Sen no Kiseki, because when they do these Kiseki sagas, they like to share some music, and they'll probably remix them in some short ways if possible. And by that note, I have to say Senno Kiseki 1's soundtrack is just out of this world by Falcom standards. So I cannot wait to listen to the music for Senno Kiseki 2. I won't be playing much of the game because I'm still playing through the other Kiseki games, but I might play a little bit of the prologue because I have this weird obsession that I have to at least beat all the prologues of all the Kiseki games before I go into the actual full normal playthroughs, so I can test out all the games, and yeah, looking forward to it. But of course, there can be only one game for me to be truly excited, and as you've said before, Arrow and I have this sort of pattern during this episode. We've talked about how Metal Gear Solid 5 was our second most anticipated game. For Arrow, his most anticipated game was Persona 5. Mine, ladies and gentlemen, is Ys 8. And it was officially shown for the first time at the pre-TGS conference. And I was joking with my friends, like, you know what? Out of everything they want to announce, I just want the Ys trailer, but I know it's never going to happen. And then when I hear the words, "Do you know the name Adol Kristen?" I literally jumped out of my seat, screaming, "Oh yes, 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 yes!" They showed the trailer, and yeah, it is number one, the most anticipated game that I have been waiting for ever since I beat Ys Celceta. So here's the lowdown on the game and why it's going to be awesome. Number one, the game is set in between Ys 5, The Lost Kingdom of Kefin, and Ys 6, Arcanapishtim. In between those games is a 3-year gap. And there's really not much that's told around that event. So this is kind of the perfect timeline for Falcom to create a new Ys game, a brand new Ys story. Basically, Adol finds himself to a place called the Archipelago around the Gotef Sea. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But basically around this islands, obviously this is where Adol's travels has landed him. Now, you won't believe this, Arrow, and this must be good fortune for this podcast, but this very day when I woke up, my inbox had a fan-translated version of the TGS trailer. So I got to see everything that was said in English. And from what I gathered, Adol is searching for a lost land that's hidden beneath the waves. From what I've seen so far, there's a good emphasis on sort of seafaring, the pirate lifestyle, pirate theme that comes into place with this new Ys game. And the two characters they show are completely new. There's this big burly guy that uses an anchor as a weapon. And then there's a very sort of thin girl who's using a rapier. And she's sort of like got this swashbuckle look to her. And Adol's there looking awesome. It's kind of like what he sort of wears in Ys Celceta, but a bit more intricate. And it's a bit weird now because you have this timeline where he wears this adventurer's outfit, then he goes back to put on his armor and red clothes, then he takes off that armor and red clothes again and goes into something different. It's become very inconsistent. It's just a little funny thing that I've just noticed, you know. But hey, they've obviously wanted to reboot the series with Celceta and sort of make Adol look a bit different, and I'm all for that, you know. One of the things people are excited about is jumping is back. It's returned, and you think it's such a minor thing people wouldn't miss, but they missed it. And it does change the dynamic of the game. It sort of blends the game to be sort of a cross between Ys 7 and Ys from Folgana in a way, or the 2000 Ys like Arcanapishtim and Origin. So that's going to be really interesting to see. I know there's a lot more sort of action-packed segments where you see Adol sort of climbing onto vines and jumping onto one edge. It looks really cool. One thing people have praised is that it's got more fluid camera controls, like you can position the camera behind the party, on top of the party. I haven't seen if you can zoom in or out yet, but that would be really cool if you could. Looks like they're experimenting a lot, and this is the thing Falcom's been doing lately, is they're very well loved by Sony, and I think Sony supports them in a lot of ways. So, but obviously they've been using the Ys series to test out all of Sony's products. Celceta was Falcom's sort of test into how to make Vita games. This, dear viewers, or dear listeners, I should say, is going to be how they test PS4 games, because Ys 8 is going to be available for PS4 and PlayStation Vita. And this is the main reason I'm getting a PS4 next year. I said to myself, the earliest I'm going to get a PS4 is when Type 0 comes out. The latest I'm going to get a PS4 is when Ys comes out. And like when I bought my Vita, I'm going to be prepared when the game comes out. And like Aero said, he's going to be spending a lot of money on trying to get the best Persona 5 Special Edition he can. I'm going to get special editions for both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita versions of this game, because for my wonderful Falcom shrine. And really, really happy. I'm really happy where the game takes place. I know a lot of people are sad because they wanted a follow-up to Celceta. I think that will come eventually. I think the free roaming, here's a library of adults' journals, let's just pick one at random and let's just read this wonderful story. That's what the series has become. And obviously Falcom has written it to make you believe there are tons of these journals and tons of possible Ys games. So I'm looking forward to finding out what lies beneath the depths of the sea. And I will say this now, watching the trailer, the fan sub trailer, there was mentions of a sacred beast, a ghost ship, and what was the other one? There's something alluding to a land lost in time, so this might be another time travel Ys game. I won't talk about what the other one was because it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler. But yeah, really looking forward to it. Oh, and the other thing they mentioned was a cursed island, which is one of the things I am looking forward to. Like I said, it's an Arte Bellico. I hope there's more than one island that sort of leads Adol to this cursed island. Maybe he has to take the ghost ship to get to the cursed island, to find the land lost in sea. Who knows? But I'm sort of piecing together these puzzles very lightly. The biggest news, however, that made me very happy, and this is the line that I will quote: characters from previous games will return. That I am looking forward to. And a lot of people saying, it's gotta be Dogi! And I'm like, if they want to revamp the timeline, because he doesn't reunite with Dogi until the beginning of Ys 8, beginning of Ys 6, but maybe they could make him the final character you get, and you could get him towards the end of Ys 8. So, yeah. The one thing I should quietly just talk about is we didn't know what this Ys game is going to be called, but they had this recent trailer where they counted down the Ys games, where they showed 1, they showed 2, they showed 3, which was Open Felgana, they showed 4, which was Memories of Celceta, they showed 5, which they had like a piece of artwork. They didn't want to show the Super Nintendo footage of the game, and then they showed Ark and Epistem, then they showed Ys 7, then they had a great big Roman numerals for 8, and I was really surprised the possibility they're going to call this Ys 8. So, because I thought they were done with naming these games with Roman numerals, because I thought they were going to go by the taglines, but there's a good chance they're going to be calling this Ys 8, and I'm pretty alright with that. People are a bit confused saying, well, why would they call it Ys 8 if it takes place before Ys 6 and 7? And I have to say to you, that's what they did with Ys 4 back in the day. They did 1, 2, and 3. Fans didn't really like Wanderers from Ys, and then when they went to make Ys 4, that is set before Ys 3. So, yeah, so they've done this once before, so they're doing it again. I don't care if they name it, number it, if they don't. It's Ys. I love Ys. I will play whatever I can, except for Ys Strategy, because that sucks. But yes, guys, this is my most favorite game that was talked about at TGS. It's everything I want it to be. I will be counting down the seconds to the game's release, and I definitely know that there will be more news about the game towards the end of the year, and halfway through next year there'll be an epic trailer for it. And then September, like usual, they'll have it released in Japan. Now, usually I don't pressure Xseed for anything because they've done all right by me. But I'm sort of like poking them to say there's only one game you really need to localize, and it is Ys 8. So, Aero, I know that you, like I said before, you're not too big on action RPGs, but I'm really happy that you've given the Ys series a lot of attention and you've enjoyed it for the most part. I have to ask, what are your thoughts on Ys 8?
Yeah. In general, you've been one of the main benefactors in making me check out the PSP titles, and over the years, I've played quite a few Ys games, and for the most part, I really enjoyed my time with it, especially 1, 2 Chronicles and Oath in Felghana, which are still my favorites. Um, I played Celceta earlier this year, and I was really surprised by it. I really enjoyed it on the Vita. It had some great visuals, and Ys 8. I am very happy to see that Falcom is, pursuing the Ys series more now. After Celceta, because despite the fact that I played the first game in the series, it just sucks to see all this Falcom and Kiseki news, because the games are not being localized. It just takes too long. So I believe Sen no Kiseki is like the 8th Kiseki title already. So that information, it's nice, but yeah, Ys is something that you can get faster localized, and I'm excited for Ys 8. It's the seafaring thing looks very nice, because usually an Ys game takes place in one specific region, but now it feels like you can go to multiple regions, which is very interesting. The thing that is, for me personally, and this is how I prefer my games, is I'm happy that it's coming to PlayStation 4, and I would definitely play it if it would be like a cross-buy, cross-play thing. But for me, my main focus goes out to the PlayStation Vita game, because I've played all the Ys games on a handheld. So PlayStation 4, it's great that it's coming, sure, but I've never played any on the consoles before, so I think I'm probably going to pick up the PlayStation Vita title, unless Xseed makes the really stupid decision to only localize, say, the PlayStation 4 version, but I would say they will do both. But very excited for it. Ys and Tales, those are definitely my favorite action RPG series. Kingdom Hearts as well, but it's been so many years since I played Kingdom Hearts now, with a few spin-offs. Even Dream Drop Distance was like 2012. So, but those are the 3 big ones. But I'm very excited for Ys 8, and it's definitely a game that I'll pick up day one and enjoy. Probably on the Vita, but maybe I'll pick it up on the PlayStation 4 as well.
And I'll get to be the benefactor of nearly everyone when I get it in Japanese, and I'll be able to tell everyone, is it worth it? I'll try and don't do what I did with Celceta, because when I finished Celceta in Japanese, I was a bit mad. But then when I played it in English, I was like, wow, I was a fool. That was amazing. It was a lot better. So I think I'll be more focusing on the gameplay aspects and the soundtrack. I got to say, that piece of music that accompanied the trailer is really awesome. The violinist goes absolute berserk halfway through the trailer. It's pretty awesome. I'm really happy. That the series is piecing more and more these days. Because after Celceta, I was kind of worried that breaking the timeline and revamping it was it was kind of a sad thing. But it actually is for the better, because it's giving Adol more journeys, and this is one of them. One thing I just want to end with before we go into the next one is this game has a lot of potential. It's an Ys game. I'm going to love it. But I would love to see the end of this game. Like, I don't want it to be open-ended like they did with other Ys games, where it's like, oh, leave it up to your interpretation what Adol did afterwards. Because the older Ys games kind of prodded you along to what the next adventure was going to be, and I kind of want that to happen to Ys 8, because it takes place before 6. One of the things that interests me about 6 is at the start of 6 is Adol is pursued by the Roman Empire, and he must have done something in between that time to really piss them off, and I want that something to happen in Ys 8. Something to get him on his hit list. One of the more annoying antagonists from the East series is Admiral Ageres, and he is the one that is pursuing Adol in East 6. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if Adol first ran into him in East 8 and fumbled his plans and then sort of sent him on this ghost chase? One thing I will say is it's going to be interesting because the go to see, well, I am saying that wrong. It's Goethe. The Goethe. I think the original pronunciation is the Gaefsi, the Gufsi, something like that. There'll be something different, but where it takes place is close to the Roman Empire. It's the first East game that takes closest to the Roman Empire. So there's going to be a ton of soldiers around that area, so it's definitely going to be interesting. In that aspect, I like what they did with Salsetta with the Roman soldiers, and it sort of paints a picture of this new East world they want to create and make it a bit more intricate. How things are not as black and white, which is going to be really awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much me gushing over East 8. You're probably going to hear me do a lot of updates either on RPGibberish or my YouTube channel for the next year or so.
Yeah, definitely. I briefly want to mention, though, in regards to Ys, I've not played all the games in the series. There are currently 2 games that I have not played yet. And what I would like to see Falcom do, not hindering Ys 8's progress, first thing what I want XC to do is I want to see them port Ark of Nepishtim to Steam, because the PlayStation 2 version, sorry, I'm not going to bust out my PS2 anymore. The PSP version, I tried it. I'm not going to play it. I would like a Steam version, and they rumored this at the Xseed forums. I would like to see that happen, because I have never played Nepishtim before. Do you have any more rumors or news about that?
Yeah, it's been rumored so much, and it's also been wanted. That is unfortunately the one East game that it falls on legality, because it was brought over by Konami. This shouldn't be an issue though, because Falcom is a subsidiary of the same company that owns Konami. Okay. So this shouldn't be an issue. I don't know what is.
Just timing, I would say, because I know Xseed is also doing a lot of Steam stuff with Corpse Party and. But Nepishtim. This is something that I would like to see, because I have not played it yet. So then I think the big thing is of course porting Sands of Kefin, so the 5th game, to something new and fresh.
I will say that if they are going to do a remake of Lost Kingdom of Kefin, it's going to be in 2017. And it's like, why the specific year, Greg? Because 2017 is the 30th anniversary of the East series.
I see.
There is no way they're not going to do something that year East related. So, I mean, this year was the 10th anniversary of Kiseki, and they released 2 Kiseki games. One of them was, of course, the remake of Ao no Kiseki, or I should say the enhanced port for the PlayStation Vita. But then they also brought out Sen no Kiseki 2, and last year they brought out all the Trails in the Sky games on the PS3, so they've had a good run with Trails games lately, and I will definitely say in 2017 we'll see something big for East. I don't know if it'll be something completely new, but East 5 has been the most requested remake, along with Salsetta, and they got around to doing but now only Kefin remains.
Yeah.
Unless they decide to remake 1 and 2 using the 7, the 7 and Salsetta.
No, please not. I'm not the biggest fan of the 7 engine. Salsetta did a lot of things right for me, but I prefer, and this is the 3rd game that I wanted to mention. I would love to see Ys Origin on the PlayStation Vita handheld.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for Ys 1 and 2, and I like to run and bump into things. But now, Ys Origin for the Vita, I would like to see Ys Origin come out on another platform other than PC. But it's a weird game. It's a wonderful game. It's one of my favorite Ys games. But it's mainly for the fans of 1 and 2, the story of 1 and 2. And Falcom seems to be doing their best to move away from the saga of 1 and 2 as much as humanly possible.
I see.
So yeah, and it is a wonderful game. Both story-wise and gameplay-wise, I wanted it to be on the PSP so bad because of how well from Falcom ran. It ran really good on the PSP, and they couldn't do it. Maybe Origin would be a great choice for the Vita. Yeah, if they do it eventually, that'd be amazing.
Okay. Well,
but there's one more game that I think we need to talk about. Two more possible East games that will happen. Besides the remake of 5, there's obviously 2 original East games that I'd love to be seen. Of course, one takes place before Oath from Falcom. That's completely original.
Yep.
But I would like to see another game that takes place at the end of the timeline, a game that takes place after E7, because I wasn't content with what happened after E7. If you want to look back on all our adults' journeys, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's not really a good place to end. So I would like to see another venture after E7. So
yeah, that is definitely, I would say, it's looking strong. For Neon Falcom, which has never been the biggest company, to see them going strong for 30 years. And I recently picked up the Falcom Chronicle and browsed through it. It's so amazing to see that such a small developer has been going very steadily, very strong, and is now catching a foothold in the West as well. And especially their E series. They built this wonderful universe where they are able to remake games. They're doing original games in between, at the end, at the start of the timeline. It's a really great thing to see. I enjoy playing the games. It's not the series that I go the most bonkers for, but I'm really excited to play more East because it's just a very solid series. They are not too lengthy. They are very epic beyond with the action and the visuals and the soundtrack. And they're just fun games to play. That's what East for me is all about. It's fun action JRPGs and a nice diversion from the more very epic story-driven games or visual novels that I play. And I can easily sit down for 20-25 hours and enjoy my time with an East game. So really, really great stuff.
East for me represents my love of gaming, and if it wasn't for East 1 and 2 on the TurboGrafx, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably would have done something else, but it made me come back with a better love of gaming, and I absolutely love the series. I have a connection to Adol. He's probably my favorite video game hero, even though he's a silent protagonist. But the old saying goes, action speaks louder than words, and it speaks the loudest for Adol Christen. So
yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed his characters, and yeah, East 8. I would definitely pick that up day one. Was that all the Falcom news?
Yeah, it was just basically, there is one more piece, but that wasn't a TGS, and very quickly, this is probably the number one Falcom game that I'm the least excited for ever since I became a huge Falcom fan. There is another Kiseki game in the works, but it's going to be for PC, and it's going to require online connectivity.
Nah.
And I'm reading about it, and I'm like, there's so many red flags here.
Yeah. It's the tough part with Japanese MMOs like Dragon Quest X. You had IP blocks. You couldn't even play it if you want to outside of Japan and stuff. So, yeah, doesn't really sound feasible.
We don't know, but I don't know if it's an online game because it's pre-existing characters, but we're thinking it's one of those mobile-like games with paywalls and all that kind of shit. Yeah. And we don't know, but from what I'm reading of it, it's getting all these hints that it may be like this. And it takes place in the same world as Kiseki. And I just reading about this, and I'm like, out of every Falcom game I have read about in the last year, this is the one game I'm least excited for. Hopefully they'll be able to show me and prove me wrong and do something, but just from the fact it's only on PC just kind of it's unappealing to me to begin with. I mean, I love playing Falcom games on PC, but this sounds like a game that probably won't see the light of day outside of Japan. But you never know; stranger things have happened. But if the proper mainline Kiseki games can't get released here, then I doubt something like that will. So.
By the way, now that I think about it, there was this new localization coming out. It's a game called Brandish Dark Revenant, right?
Yeah, Brandish.
Doesn't sound so good.
I don't hate it, but it is a very punishing game. So for all you Dark Souls enthusiasts, all aboard. I've said this before. I tried it out years ago on the PC Engine, and it is one of the most difficult games I have ever played based on the control scheme. Like, everything to do with timing in other games, you might say, oh, this requires intricate timing and all this. Not so much more than Brandish requires, because the whole control scheme is set out that you can't move left to right. You can only move up and down. If you move left to right, you don't turn. You sidestep to the right or you sidestep to the left. If you want to turn your perspective, you've got to hit the L and R buttons. And you're thinking, what the problem is with that? When you're playing the PC Engine version or the Super Nintendo version, and the bird's eye view is directly on top of the person's head, dead center, it gets really, really nauseously confusing, and you get very dazed and confused very quickly. They've kind of fixed this for the PSP version. Instead of doing directly bird's eye view top down, they do it on a slight angle, so you sort of get a feeling for where you are. So in that regard, it's a little bit better. But make sure you set an hour to get the controls down, because if you can't control the game, you have no hope of beating it. And trust me, the AI in Brandish is relentless, and it will test your ability to control that game. And if you don't know how to control, you're gonna die within seconds. So
okay. This was coming out for the PSP, PSN, also PS Vita by Exceed, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's something I'll keep my eye on. Maybe it will. Some people in the YouTube game community can do some gameplay and some videos and talk about the controls, and I have it on my radar.
I not to toot my own horn, I am the Falcom fanatic. I have to beat Brandish. It's one of those demons I have to conquer.
I understand. Hopefully you are able to enjoy the PSP version, either on your PSP or PlayStation Vita, and yeah, interesting. But all right, that was something else that I knew that was coming out. All right, let's see. That was a lot of TGS news. I believe we have covered everything that I wanted to cover in terms of the news announcements, the interesting companies that I look forward to on the JRPG side, looking at the games. I keep track of all the games that I'm interested in a list, so for all the upcoming games, and looking at that, I pretty much talked about all the JRPGs that I'm hyped up for. So yeah, 3.5 hours later, I'm pretty much done. I don't know if you wanted to add some stuff.
Well, I was hoping we could beat your record on AGP, but no, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's been a very good return to form for RPGibberish. It's really good to come back and talk to you about these wonderful games coming out. For the most part, I would say TGS was a success, mainly due to that amazing pre-conference that Sony did, and really set up the next 2 years for great releases. I've got this old saying, if 1 year is a great year of gaming news, then anticipate the next year or two to be great gaming releases. And 2015 is going to be one crazy year. I have, for this couple of years, I've kind of taken this stance to buy some new games, but buy a lot of retro games. I think next year I'm not going to buy a single retro game because there's going to be too many new releases I want to play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, now 2015 is shaping up to be a crazy year. To be honest, 2014, especially on the JRPG side, has been really slow, especially with the delay of course, of second chapter. But 2015, yeah, there's so many great series. You know, if we're just looking at Trails in the Sky second chapter, Persona 5, Ys 8, lots of Final Fantasy goodness, Xenoblade Chronicles Port, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Tales of Zestiria, other Atlas greatness, so many other miscellaneous JRPGs. For me personally, that covers about everything. You know, Dragon Quest Heroes coming out. The only thing that is not coming out is something Fire Emblem related, which I would love, but we get Devil Survivor 2 break record for the strategy RPGs. It's holy shit. For me personally, this year has been very visual novel driven. I've played a lot of visual novels, which is slowly becoming one of my favorite genres as well. But next year, I have a feeling it's going to be RPGs all the way. And with the revival of RPGibberish and to be able to talk about them, and hopefully with our great buddies on the YouTube gaming community, 2015, I would say, is going to be an absolutely fantastic year in terms of gaming.
Absolutely. Before we finish off this episode, I think we should let our listeners know on how we're going to be coming back with RPGibberish, because we've got a really cool plan, and it's going to solve one of our biggest problems. For if you don't know, the time zones between nearly everyone in the community is really rough, and if we get a guest on from a completely different time zone other than our own, it can really cause some chaos, and one of us usually has to suffer through early days, and you know, sometimes we do it, but sometimes it's you know, it causes a little bit of a problem. What we've decided is we're going to some episodes we're going to break up and host on our own. Aero will do some episodes with a few guests, and then I will do some episodes with a few guests, but then we will return to doing episodes where it'll just be us two. And hopefully, if we can find someone within our time zone around this time, you know, presumably someone from Japan or someone else from Europe, then we can do episodes as normal.
Yeah, definitely. This sounds like a really good idea because we were always struggling with time zones, and especially getting guests from North America, myself in Europe, and you in Australia. That was always really, really tough. I'm really looking forward to getting some guests on there. So of course, some guests that we both want to talk to. So we have to make sure that we schedule that correctly. I'm down with it, of course. During the recording of this, I briefly gave out a teaser in the AGP chat community, which has a lot of great people there. And Greg hasn't seen this one. I'm sending it to him on Skype. We got this awesome image by our good buddy the Leggy Gamer. I don't know if you got that right now, Greg.
I guess I look.
It is. I'll edit it in. You'll see it on your screen if you are watching it on YouTube. It's all aboard the hype train with our faces on it. So it's people are very interested. I had a lot of great people like Dustin Kreis and Rusty Ari Lewis 2011 and Corn Muffin X. They are very excited to see RPGibberish Revive. So this is great already. You know, to see that. These are people that have been around for RPGibberish that have listened to it years ago and are still excited to hear us talk about games and maybe even make an appearance themselves. This shows that the people are very excited about RPG stuff and love to talk about it, love to listen to it, and it's very humbling to see that they really enjoy listening. Just the two of us talk about it. And go off, on all these great games coming out. So we are going to be planning a lot of great episodes, and with this new reschedule where we can drop in and out more easily without the need for me to be present or Greg to be present at all episodes, that is going to alleviate a lot of stress. And honestly, what we also suffered through was a lot of technical craziness. And pretty much this recording for 3.5 hours, 4 hours straight
went really smooth for one minor hiccup, but nothing went wrong. So without technical issues, without time zone problems, I think RPGibberish has a lot of potential to pump out episodes on a regular basis. Definitely should be a great thing to do.
Absolutely, and I just want to take a brief moment to thank all our good buds at the Another Gaming podcast community. They always told me how much they enjoyed the gibberish episodes of old, and there's also a lot of other friends throughout the community that have briefly mentioned gibberish in some form or another. So it's really good to hear a lot of people enjoyed what we have to say, and it was one of the reasons that I thought to myself, well, you know what, it deserves another chance and make it as better than it ever was before and make the most of it. And like we said before, we've just met a lot of great people that we think can help out and help us deliver some really, really amazing episodes concerning some really cool RPG series that I've always wanted to talk about. Should we give them a little hint of what's to come?
Yeah, sure.
We've been talking about Square, and I think this is probably one of the best conversations I've had about Squaresoft in a long time that didn't revolve around me trying to get a pitchfork and torch.
Yeah.
It's really cool talking to Aero. Sort of brings out the best of me when it comes to Square, and I think what we should finally do is we haven't really talked about this yet, so we'll probably mention it now, is we'll definitely have a month where we cover the two big Square Enix franchises that makes those companies who they were. Arrow, if you don't mind taking Final Fantasy, and I will take Dragon Quest.
Yeah, definitely. This is what we did in the past, because when we set up RPGibberish, we started with some good episodes, but they were always the second tier series we wanted to talk about, because we were sort of building up towards the big ones, and then we ran into the struggle, and we went on hiatus. But I think now it's the time to really sit down and just go crazy on these major series and brings on some wonderful guests. This is it's definitely time for that.
Absolutely. And I have nothing else to add, and I just wanted to say to you, Ero, thanks for coming back. It's been an awesome nearly 4 hours.
Yeah.
So many more to come. Many more 4+ hour sessions to come.
Yeah, definitely. Just briefly though, we were talking about this before recording the podcast, but we're thinking of setting up a Facebook community, right, to make sure that the fans can stay in touch with us and talk to us on a regular basis.
Yes, this is one of the ideas that we definitely talked about, and being a part of other podcast communities and other RPG communities, I see the potential some place like Facebook provides with that, and I definitely think it will provide a great sort of hub for RPGibberish. We can, of course, update about when episodes are coming out. We can link to episodes, any RPG news we can just put on there, and anyone who brings up anything to do with RPGs, any good discussions, we can respond there and get some awesome RPG talk happening.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to that. I recently recorded a video which I have to release on my channel, talking about how I shifted a lot towards Facebook and staying in touch on a daily basis in either Facebook communities or chats with a lot of great gamers. And I think it's a very good idea if we set up an RPGibberish community where you, the listeners, you can talk to us and get the conversation going and talk about the games that you're playing, the RPGs, the news announcements, and it should be really good. So maybe by the time you're listening to this, it's not set up yet, but it is definitely coming. So look forward to that, and we'll do a mini announcement on the channel on YouTube as well. So definitely check that out once we got around to setting it up. But really big thanks to you, Greg, as well for coming and approaching me with the idea to revive it, to sit with me here for 4 hours straight to do this episode, and many more episodes to come in the future. It's really exciting after a about 2-year hiatus. So
Really, really happy to see to see this return, and with a year as crazy as 2015 and so many great series to still talk about, I think it's going to be a great year for RPGibberish and gaming in general.
Absolutely. And with that, dear listeners, I want to say thank you for listening. You can see my videos at RPGSwagman.com, and you can see your videos, Mike, at...
You can watch me at Aerodynamisch. I know the name is a little bit tough. Just look in the description below. You can find the link, and you can find all my crazy videos of my collection and all that good stuff. So definitely check it out if you haven't already.
Just look for the green cactuar.
Yeah, the green cactuar. It's my logo, my mascot. This is how I approach it. So yeah, check out our channels. Check out the previous episodes of RPGibberish if you haven't done so. And for me, that's it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
And with that, thank you for listening to the revival episode of RPGibberish. Please comment below what were your favorite games that you love to talk about at TGS, what games were announced, what you loved about TGS 2014, what have you been doing since we've been on a hiatus. We want to hear everything, people. I just want to say thank you again for listening, and I hope to you all out there that you're having fun with your JRPGs, or Western RPGs, or RPGs in general. I hope they're all glorious. Thanks, guys.